We will call this meeting to order at 6:34 p.m. All right, on section B of our roll call, section B of our agenda, we can begin with roll call. Okay, so Senator Christian Arredondo. Present. Senator Reem Blake. Present. Senator Akeem Brown. Senator Fabian Escobedo.
Present.
Senator Ali Isles.
Present.
Senator Jackie Jacoby. He's excused. Senator Colette King.
Here, I'm present.
Senator Delaney Connick.
Present.
Senator Richard Lee.
Present.
Senator Carlton Nguyen.
Present.
Senator Priscilla Perez.
Present.
Senator Jason Ramirez.
Present.
Senator Herman Sanger.
Present.
Senator Summer Schaefer.
Present.
Senator Sammy Way.
Present.
President Pro Tempore Devin Plaza.
Present.
Personnel Director Ashley Harana.
Present.
Marketing and Promotions Director Raveen Rathod.
Present.
Elections Director Stephanie Rose.
Present.
Outreach Director Jessica Arquidez.
Present.
Senate Secretary Ardelia Chakri.
Present.
Parliamentarian Momo Hussain.
Present.
Vice President of Campus Internal Affairs Fernando Echeverria.
Present.
Vice President of External Affairs Abraham Galvan.
Present.
President Nafi Karim.
President Nafi Karim is in Oakland for the Council of Presidents meeting with the UC President Janet Napolitano. He says he misses you all and will be back for the next Senate meeting. My name is Alfora. I'm the Chief of Staff for Nafi Karim. He asked me to list all my pertinent qualifications to ASUCR. Before coming to UCR as a freshman, I attended ASUCR Congress. Before that, I was a spokesperson for the ASUCR Coalition. During my time there, we passed several pieces of legislation, like the School Plan Bill of Rights, that ended willful defiance and means of suspension. It's the first school district in the country to do that. With that, that also influenced statewide and nation-wide legislation. I was campaign organizer for Gilbert Cedillo. The year before that, I was given full autonomy of hiring 20 canvassers and phone bankers to work in that campaign. Prior to that, I worked in 10 different campaigns, all doing pretty much similar things. So I don't really see it necessary to explain. Other than that, that's essentially it.
Thank you. Vice President of Finance Ira Shang.
Present.
And myself, President. Okay, proceeding with our agenda for a meeting that promises to be a lot better than yesterday's midterm elections. We can now move on with approval of the agenda. Okay, so I open up the floor for motions on those who wish to, I open up the floor for motions on to approve or amend the agenda. Do I have a motion? Senator Fabian Escobedo.
I motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by President Pro Tempore Devin Plaza. All those in favor? Okay, all those opposed? And abstain. Abstain, is that a abstain?
That was a oppose.
Opposed?
Yeah, I forgot to make a motion, so I'm opposing.
Okay.
So I motion to amend the agenda.
I
move to amend the agenda.
You move to amend the agenda. Oh, might not see your hand, so I can go ahead and hear the.
Oh, it's fine. I actually forgot, so it's my fault. I actually wanted to show the video that we made, Raveen and I made for voting
Okay.
for midterm
I
elections.
can add that under presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Okay. We have a motion to adopt, amend the agenda to include under subsection G, presentation by Senator Colette King and those involved. Do I have a second on that motion? All right, seconded by Senator Delaney Connick. All those in favor of approving the agenda with the amendments? All those opposed? And abstained. Okay, by a vote of 14-0, this motion passes. All right, moving on to section D of our agenda. I'll be passing around the Senate meeting minutes of last week. Please go through these, read these for accuracies, and sign your name on the back. I'll be passing them this way. Vice President Irish. Okay, at this time, moving on to section E of our agenda, we will now be hearing from ex officios. For any ex officios we have in the gallery tonight, please, I invite you now at this time to come forward and state your name for the purpose of our minutes and address the Senate. If you could just come to the podium.
Hello everyone, my name is Megan Moya. I'm here on behalf of RJ, Residential Association. I am the building president for Petland. Unfortunately, our executive president cannot make it, so I'm here in her stead. And that will be next week as well. So, RHA helped hold the first quad social this Monday. It was very fun, great success. The theme was Harry Potter, and Glenmore was the winner of that quad social, so we'll see what happens next quarter. Next weekend, the members of RHA will go to our ASUCR conference. It's a regional conference, the Pacific affiliate of college and university residence halls. And it'll be hosted at Cal Poly, so they're working to get ready for that. All chairs, technology assistants, and executive president assistants are now appointed, so we have a full council now, which is awesome. And buildings are throwing the first programs. They started this week and they'll go into next week, so we're all really excited to see the programs that the buildings come up with. And that's all the announcements that I have. Is there any questions that you all have for me?
See no questions?
Thank you.
Are there any officials who would like to present this afternoon? Please simply just state your name for the minutes.
Hi, my name is Taylor Wright. I'm here on behalf of the Student Athletic Advisory Committee. Never been here before, it's my first meeting. It's pretty cool, by the way. Very official. But I'm just here to sort of make you guys aware that we're having a tailgate before homecoming. So we just kind of want to get that out there, as I know like there's a lot of you guys sitting in this room. So it's going to be the 15th, which is the day of homecoming. It's going to be over in the Institute parking lot, which is over off University right before you hit the Arts building and sort of the campus loop. It's going to be held at 2 p.m. and it will just go, people can go, they can park their cars in there. There will be food, we're going to have badminton, sort of, it's just like kind of a social before we head off to the basketball game at 4 p.m. So the reason that SAC is choosing to host this event is that we're really just trying to intermingle student athletes and other students. I feel like people sort of have a misconception of who we are and maybe, think that we're not the friendliest of people. So we want to make sure that we want to invite everybody. We have sororities and fraternities coming, things like that. So we want to make sure that everyone feels included. And also, I just want to say go to sporting events. Thank you.
Greg, thank you. Are there any other officials who would like to present this?
Yes. Alright, this is also the first time I'm here. My name is Jorge Jauregui and I'm the newly elected ex-official for Chicano Student Program and Raza Assembly. As for Raza Assembly, we meet on every Tuesday at 9 p.m. at INTS 1132, and there will be no meeting next week due to Veterans Day, in recognition of Veterans Day. So for the announcements, I would like to extend an invitation to all of you guys to be part of the committees we will be holding on. We will be having three very important events for the next 2 quarters, winter and spring. And from right now, we are meeting every week for each of those 3 events to plan them out. So the first one is Semana de la Mujer, and we meet every Monday from 1 to 2 p.m. This is a week-long event. It will take place in March, and it will highlight the achievements of Chicanas and Latinas. The event will also include film screenings, guest speakers, and workshops, conferences, and social gatherings. And this event will be held March 2 to March 6 of 2015. And that's the first event. The second event will be the youth conference, and to plan that out, we meet every Tuesday from 4 to 5 p.m. And this will be a conference, and it will bring out about 800 local high school students, and we will inform them about UCR and tell them about the options about higher education and beyond. And this event will take place on Saturday, April 25th, 2015. And the last event will be Raza Grad, and for that one we meet every Thursday from 12 to 1 p.m. And this event which will take place in June 6th of 2015, and it will bring out familias together, families, and we will basically honor the achievements of the graduating Chicano and Latino students. And like I said, it will be taking place in June, and it'll be June 6, 2015. It's a Saturday. And to finish it all up, all these meetings will be in the Chicano Student Program Conference Room in Castle Hall. And if you guys have any questions, you guys could contact our office. The number is 951-827-3821. And that'll be it. So,
Senator Delaney.
if you guys have any questions, yes.
Thank you for coming. So those committees are to plan those 3 events that you spoke about?
Yes, that's
Okay. And are those open to anyone that would like to join?
right. Yes, yes, I encourage everyone to go, so,
Thank you.
no problem.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, just a quick review, I skipped over it in the agenda, but part of the section on section D, in the review of old business, we have our parliamentarian here, who wishes to clarify on some of the procedural inquiries of the last meeting. And so I'm going to yield the floor to him to give us his expertise. One parliamentarian moment of saying on the floor.
Hello. So because some concerns were raised last meeting regarding parliamentary procedure and meeting protocol, I thought it'd be important to clear up some issues. Traditionally, and I say this to refer to previous AS presidents, the nominations for the justice position were simply chosen by the president with little to no formal consultation with the rest of the cabinet. However, clearly this year's government and the student senate has voiced a strong dissent with the tradition. Why is the parliamentarian talking about this? The mistaken conflict was with tradition versus text. Interpretation and following procedure are key to my position, and now that the position and the desire to make a selection process thorough has been made evident. So with that, Mr. Chairperson, when will the next ECAB meeting be, and our future nominations for the remaining justices on the agenda?
I was informed next ECAB meeting is Friday, 4:30.
So for those of you senators that are interested, please be in attendance. Also, lastly, to clear up any misconceptions about whether or not the executive cabinet is a subordinate body to the Senate or a subcommittee, that would be misinformed. The executive cabinet is not subordinate to Senate. An example of a subordinate subcommittee to the Senate would be Legislative Review Council, like LRC, the Senate subcommittee. That is all, and I look forward to being more alert and proactive with the rest of our work. And a point of parliamentary procedure as well, when addressing the galley or members, it is best to introduce yourself first.
Great, thank you for that input. Okay, Irish Director Jessica Keys.
Point of information, I just wanted to know, what was the process made, if you were able to answer it, of scheduling the ECAB meeting?
As I was essentially informed on the scheduling by our president, who sets up the ECAB meetings.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Moving on with our agenda, we have section F on committee reports. You can hear from Vice President Ibrahim.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm not sure, I just wanted to make the galley aware just in case anybody's coming. In terms of Friday, I'm not really sure, I think we still need to talk to Nafi about this because I know a lot of us are gonna be gone for Students of Color Conference. So just in case, I'm not sure exactly what will happen, but I'm sure Nafi or somebody can update you if there's still an executive cabinet meeting or not. Because I know, for example, I won't be there.
Right, no,
So,
both of us won't be able to attend.
yeah.
It's just Iris.
Well, I'm sure that will follow further discussion. Okay. Fortunately, we don't have the president here to be able to discuss that. So we will continue. On section F, on committee reports, we have subsection 1, our finance committee. And so we will now bring the finance committee meeting minutes up on the screen for you. And I yield the floor to Vice President of Finance, Irish Shane.
Hi everyone. Okay, so in this past finance meeting, first, our finance bylaws have finally been passed. They are being sent to LRC for further review, so just look out for that. Second, we passed Vice President of External Affairs Abraham's bylaws regarding his 6 paid positions, and we set the stipend to $9.90 each for the 6 paid members and with back pay. Okay, and then regarding the organization allocations, they are as follows. we allocated 825 to Arabic Club, 908 to Running Club at UCR, 908 to the Leadership Community for Women, 999 for Nothing But Nets, 1,329 for Women's Club Soccer, 750 for Asterisk, 825 for Riverside Health Connect, 825 for U.S. Green Building Council, and the auto renewal clubs are the Hmong's Student Society Association for 1,098, and it was allocated 110. And then for the Hillel organization, it was allocated 195. That is all.
Okay. Open the floor for questions or motions on the floor at this time. Senator Jason Ramirez.
Yeah, is there any reason that in pretty much every single vote it's 501, 501, 501,
The
40?
chair abstains.
But is there any reason for that? I'm just curious if there's any reason for that. Because I mean, it seems like I'm going to assume it's one person that did it the whole time. I just
No, the chair
I
abstains.
abstain from the voting unless there's a tie.
Oh, okay. All right, sweet. Thank you.
Yeah.
Senator.
Yeah, my only question was that I've noticed that traditionally every club gets pretty much what they're asking for. Why did K and L just get a small portion of what they were asking?
The last two clubs, they are auto renewals, so they are automatically allocated their previous year's balance, and then
So
when
that's
they,
like 10%.
the 10%, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. I now open up the floor for motions at this time. President Pro Tem Plaza.
I move to approve the allocations made by Finance Committee.
Okay. Motion by President Pro Tem Plaza. Do I have a second? Seconded by Senator Summer Schaefer. All those in favor? And opposed? And abstained. Okay, by a vote of 14-0, this motion passes. Continuing on, we will now hear on subsection 2 from GCAP Committee. At this time, I will yield the floor to our Vice President of Campus and General Affairs, Fernando Echeverria.
So we don't have any updates as far as grants go, but just to give you an update as to what the committee is doing at the moment. Right now, we're working on a water conservation campaign. We're going to partner with CalPERC, and it's going to be something that we're going to really kick off in the winter quarter. We're going to do a lot of education components, a lot of signage, and we're just going to teach a lot of students just how to conserve water and fair practices here in Riverside and how we get our water so we have a better understanding of how the water is used on our campus. Secondly, we're also working on the cutting of the ribbon ceremony for the new solar panel grids that we have by Lot 30. That's going to be next Thursday, and we encourage everyone in the galley as well as all senators that are able to attend. It's going to be next Thursday at 12 p.m. in the garden, and that's the garden that's right next to Lot 30. And we're going to have a little cutting of the ribbon ceremony where the chancellor is going to give a speech, as well as your ASUCR president, Nafi Kareem, and we're going to talk about sustainability and how we're going to focus on sustainability in our future, and as the future of the UCR. And those are pretty much all my updates for GCAP.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, moving on. Senator Summer Schaefer.
Point of parliamentary procedures. Sorry, it just came to my attention that we're going to be moving into legislative review, and that there may be some people in the audience or in the public forum that might want to speak before we vote on certain resolutions. And so if there was any way to allow them to speak before the resolution is voted.
Yes, we are able to invite members in support or in opposition to resolutions. So as we go to review them, we are able to take galley opinions.
And for the future, is there any way to have public forum for legislative review, or?
Yes, if you motion to amend the agenda, you can move that up.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Legislative Review Committee, I will yield the floor to our President Pro Tem Devin Plaza.
Hi, everyone. So we had a couple different resolutions come through LRC yesterday. The first one we'll be going over. I'd like to invite Daniel. I saw you in the gallery. If you want to come up and present kind of what you had to say to us yesterday, the floor is yours.
Good evening, guys and ladies. So basically what I'm bringing to you guys is a resolution to basically vote as a unanimous decision to condescend towards the app Yik Yak. I don't know if you guys are aware of what this application is. I wasn't a few weeks ago until recently, most notably during our recruitment week. So it posed a lot of issues because there's a lot of misinformation that was given out through that application. At times people were actually posting as us, and that posed an issue because we did not sanction or authorize that at all. And it happened to be the wrong information. So we don't really have any control over that, and the anonymous factor to it allows people to say whatever they want, which is fine, and this is America with free speech, but at the same time, it also allows directly, and it seems to be the majority of the usage, is towards slandering and mischaracterizing people intentionally. And this is kind of a huge issue, especially with cyberbullying now, so prevalent in our society. So what this application allows, though, it provides a service called geofencing. This essentially just blocks the application from being used at various latitudes and longitudes to set up locations, so that way people can't post to it during that time. So it's not an outright ban of the application. It's not a you can't have this on your phone type of resolution coming from you guys. That's not what it is at all. It's more so just writing to that company, seeing if they will provide this for us so we can provide a safer place for our students here in their academic learning environment.
At this time, I would like to open up the floor for questions from senators in regards to the resolution under current deliberation.
Could you scroll down, please?
Comments? Questions and comments? Questions and comments are allowed. Senator Kimura.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Just quickly, second to the last line of the resolution, let it be resolved that ASUCR condemns the use of Yik Yak, UCR rants, and UCR confessions as tools to spread hate speech on our campus. I'm a little reluctant to keep the language as condemns for the simple fact that Yik Yak is a public application. Students who want to use it should have access to it because some students feel violated by the content that is posted. We can consider that, but what about the individuals who use the application with integrity? We're telling them that they can't use the program. And so then what we have is a situation where we're denying certain students access to something that they actually use with integrity to protect a group of students who feel violated by what the app actually does. So my question is, how would you feel if you were an individual who used this app with integrity and then found out that you could not use this application? How would that make you feel?
Well, the truth of the matter is they would still actually be able to use the application. You just can't post things directly on campus. So you can go off campus a mile and a half past the radius and you can use it. So you're not actually blocking people from using it at all. And I think that the small inconvenience of a few minutes of not posting your idea right then and there is outweighed by the benefit from protecting students from this type of bullying. And I will say this, for us, it seems to pick up in waves. When things are directly involved with your community. I'm just looking ahead here because I know it's not, the reason why I'm bringing it to you guys is because I don't think it's just going to affect only my community. It's already affected, I'm just trying to bring it to your guys' attention before it affects the rest of the community as well. I know last year's elections were, very hard fought for. And imagine what kind of, ridiculous things could be posted on this without authorization from any of the candidates. It could be very, very messy.
We can go through and react. Okay, next we'll hear from Vice President Abraham Galvan and Senator Summer Schaefer. Yes.
Part of parliamentary procedure, I was wondering if after this comments and questions from the senators of the horseshoe, are we going to allow members of the galley to ask questions or state their comments, whether they support or against it?
If the Senate so wishes, yes.
And would we have to motion for that?
We would have to motion to open it up to the galley.
Thank you.
Okay, so the ordered speakers list is Abraham Galvan and Senator Summer Schaefer, and then Marketing and Promotions Director Ravine Rathod, and then Senator Colette King. Okay, and Keene Brown. And we'll continue with that order.
Yeah, I can say that as somebody whose office and the work that I just personally do on a personal level relies on the ability to express yourself really whenever you want, as much as you can. I can say that I do find this resolution to be somewhat problematic, only because, like for example, YICAC might be used in a lot of ways to promote hate speech and racist and homophobic and sexist comments. And I think that that's definitely an issue we should address. But putting any kind of across-the-board restrictions on the use of it is really problematic to me, because I can also see YICAC being extremely beneficial for other movements, to provide communication between students, to provide an anonymous source of information. A lot of times that's something that's desperately needed that we don't often have enough of, right? So I do think that it can definitely be a great platform, and I'm really hesitant to support something like this because, like I said, my office really relies on it. I'm already kind of hesitant about other restrictions that are on campus. Unfortunately, our admin has been able to work with us traditionally very well in that regard. So that's been fortunate, but as soon as you put anything like more systematic, and especially in terms of like students being supportive of something like this, it does become really complicated. Like right now, you'll see me give a discussion about how tuition is likely going to increase. I guarantee you there's going to be movement on this campus, and we want as little barriers to our ability to communicate as possible, right? So with that being said, I do think that this resolution brings up a great point, and I'm really glad that you came here with this resolution, because what it's doing is it's highlighting the use of these platforms in a particularly negative way. And I think the issue isn't so much of like people having access to it, it's about the campus culture that's created by it, and the campus culture that's allowed these types of things to go on, where it seems like this is something that a majority of students agree with, right? It seems like a lot of the people partaking in YICAC are supportive of these hateful comments, right? I think something that we can do to more actively and better target the root cause is to something that my office will be doing, and if Senate wants to, I really encourage you to help me, is along with something that housing has decided to do, they are going to be doing this campaign that's, they're calling it Take Back YICAC. I don't necessarily agree with that use of the word, but I think we can definitely do something where essentially the campaign is that they want at a certain time on a certain day for like users to post positive things. I don't necessarily say that we do something along those lines, but I think just positivity campaigns on this campus in general would be really helpful. I know last year we did through External Affairs kind of this positivity week. I think something like that would be good. I think encouraging students to use these platforms, but to use them for alternative methods, such as providing positive commentary on things, would be really great. I think that we would have a lot of support from administration on that. I think we would have we would be able to make a better impact on really the root causes of this without really infringing on people's ability to do what they need with it if necessary. So that's what I would suggest. I know that my office will be working on that, and we would love to have Senate support if you wish to, and whoever else wants to be involved as well. We're always looking for more partners. So.
Okay, great, thank you. Next, we'll hear from Summer.
So most of what I was going to say, Vice President of External Affairs Abraham Galvan already stated, but in regards to the geofence, I believe you said, you said you wouldn't be able to use it on UCR campus, but the people, to my knowledge, majority of the people that use Yik Yak are first years and they live on campus. And it's come to my attention, some of, because I am also a residential advisor, and some of my residents expressed that they use this app to find out about things about the school, find out about things that are happening, find out like, oh, maybe I shouldn't eat here, maybe I should, I don't know. They've been telling me about certain things that they have been using Yik Yak for. I also know that there have been several sexual harassment remarks on Yik Yak, and unfortunately there is not much policy-wise that can be done about that. We're trying to figure out solutions to that, but the one that Hazy came up with, as Abe mentioned, was Take Back Yik Yak, and their slogan is "Don't hate Yak the Great." And in case anyone was wondering what date that was, it's going to be on November 11th at 12. But I understand the need to have a resolution that addresses the hate that is coming from Yik Yak, but perhaps restricting use is not the best solution.
If I can just comment on that, there have been several private universities that have been able to acquire this geofencing thing. As of now, there's only an option for middle schools, high schools, and elementary schools. So these kids, the first years, they are literally just 6 months removed from basically the same restrictions. It's not anything new. It's not necessarily that they're finding out information, but is this necessarily the conduit that you want them to use? I think that you want to give them a realistic and more accurate perception of this campus, and I think that the added anonymity to it just creates an environment that naturally steers, unfortunately, more towards perpetuating this hate speech towards people, individuals, organizations, and groups in general. And so that's where I understand where you're coming from, freedom of speech, and you're wanting to allow students to talk, but I think that ultimately our job should be to protect our students from this kind of stuff. They shouldn't have to learn in an environment like this. And if they are in a better learning environment away from this type of stuff directly, you can go, down to Jafang's Pizza and Yik Yak all you want. But I think it should be just kind of removed from the direct proximity of the classroom. It's not necessarily directly banning it, but it's just condemning the fact that, hey, this isn't an authorized, this isn't an official way of learning about our campus.
Well, can I respond to that?
You can respond.
Okay, well, I mean, as someone that is working with first years on a daily basis, I do know this is a new environment for them, and it should be treated as a different environment for them. It shouldn't be treated as the restrictions that they had in high school, and that as far as creating an environment conducive to learning, that is something that our school focuses really hard on, and there can be programs made around that, and there can be other ways to try to create an environment that is conducive to learning. It's not the act of typing on Yik Yak, but it is the thought process of being able to use hateful language and openly sexually harass and stuff of that nature.
Okay, continue with the speakers list. Next we have our Marketing Promotions Director.
Hi, yeah, I just had a couple of comments as well. First of all, I agree with Senator Summary in that I understand that they're coming from an environment, really held in control by parents and administrators. However, I do feel that there is a problem of hate speech, but things like Yik Yak and things like UCR Confessions are just a mechanism for students to express these opinions. They themselves, I don't believe, are at fault. So like we said, campus climate, campus culture, that's definitely a big issue. And I think targeting that and kind of understanding why someone wants to express these thoughts, or what thought process drives a person to think it's okay to talk about someone anonymously in a hateful manner, would be a lot more conducive than simply banning yik yak. And the other thing is just common human nature. When you pick, sorry, I apologize, and when you place restrictions on something, it's kind of human nature to go out and seek it a little more. So I think that like even talking about banning or placing restrictions on yik yak would just increase its popularity. I know as far as anonymity, personal anecdotes as well, I've made some friends that are first years as well, and they've told me they just like using it to ask kind of dumb questions that they feel like they'd be judged for, like where do I go eat, or where's this building, or just very simple things that giving the sense of anonymity gives them some confidence or gives them some reassurance that they won't be mobbed for asking just basic questions perhaps. So that's just kind of where I stand. I do agree that there have been some incidents where it's definitely not okay to post some of these things. However, as a student government on campus, I don't think that enforcing a blanket solution for a couple isolated problems, no matter how serious they are, I don't think a blanket solution would be the best idea.
Okay. Proceeding with the speakers list, we will hear from Colette, Senator Colette King, Senator Keene Brown, President Pro Tem Devin Plazo, Vice President of Campus and Internal Affairs Fernando, and afterward, Irish Director Jessica Urquidez and Senator Herman Singh. At that point, unless Senate wishes it, I will close the speakers list, unless anyone else wishes to add their name. Okay, thank you very much. Senator Colette King.
Yeah, I have a quick question. So you have no idea how they got that title. I was looking at your photo that you posted with the document. How did they get IFC UCR up there as a title when they said their comment?
Honestly, I have no idea.
It's pretty crazy.
It is.
Yeah. I was just thinking, like, what if they said, Chancellor White? So yeah, that's an interesting thing.
I'm thinking, ahead to this, there's elections for this and stuff like that later on, and I just can imagine the back and forth that could go on. And that's the problem, is you can say you are anyone in addition to being anonymous.
Yeah.
It's not
I will
just,
say though, out of all the comments, it was the most positive one,
But it was wrong.
Yeah.
It told the kids to go to a place when that was not the right, it was 24 hours after that.
And then it's a coincidence that like Abraham brought this up, but Delaney and I also were discussing like a campaign that we could do. I guess we'd work with Abraham on that. But I don't know if you're familiar with UCSB's use of yik yak. No? Okay. So they do this clever little thing where they do hashtag Gaucho back. I don't know if you get it because they're gauchos. But it was something that we were thinking about, but we couldn't think of a cool like hashtag. So I mean, you can do like Highlander, I don't know. But basically what I'm trying to say is I think the best way to go about this is campaigning. I'm going to not talk that long because I'm going to reiterate basically what everyone has said previously, but I do think restricting it would just encourage people to use it more. I really do think highly of this resolution in that it is a standing point saying that we are not accepting people to speak this way. However, people are speaking this way, and we aren't their parents, and we can't tell them, you can't talk like this. However, we can only encourage them to think more highly of our school, and I guess you coming from IFC, think highly of IFC. So, yeah, thank you.
Well, can I just?
Oh yeah, please reply.
So, let me just touch on one thing really quick, the slippery slope argument. The only issue with that is that there's literally nothing more you can do than just ask for a geofence and say this is not the right way to like learn about our school. And then, I'm sorry, one more. Can you repeat what you said?
Gaucho back?
No, I just lost my.
It was, think highly of IFC.
Point of inquiry.
Yes.
Do you know if there's a way to trace, I don't know if there's an IP address for phones, but trace those people, because that's false impersonation and libel.
Right. So there is, they only track the IP address and release it to law enforcement when there's been bomb threats. And that when that is the case, it's been obviously a couple hours past when it gets posted. So that's kind of also.
Great. Okay. We can continue with the list. We now have, I believe, Senator Keen-Brown.
Thank you. Good evening again. I don't necessarily think that Yik Yak is the causal relationship here in the problem. But I think it does correlate to the problem. The problem is educating the users who use Yik Yak. And I would support a resolution that called for the education of the users of Yik Yak, as opposed to a policy, a rule that will then create boundaries. And we all know that boundaries isolate, and isolation leads to discrimination. And I just don't feel as an elected representative of this campus that I can support a resolution that will create a boundary that can possibly lead to isolation and in turn discrimination.
Thank you. Moving on, we will hear from President Pro Tem McLaughlin.
Hi, Daniel. The only issue that I have, really, because I do agree that we shouldn't be promoting, things that promote hate speech and things like that. However, I looked up geofence, and the definition that I found was from Wikipedia, and it's primarily used with child location services and notifying parents if their child lives in a designated area. And I just, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. We're not here to be parents. We're a public university. You said that private universities have, come up with ways to restrict use. We're a public university. We're not here to parent these students. And a majority of the incoming students are, adults, and we're all adults here. I just don't think that, I don't feel comfortable promoting something that would restrict speech, because as the examples that you gave us were noted, there are a lot of positive uses within Yik Yak, Go Giants, things like that. And so it's redundant, but it's unfair to those students. And it's just, we're not their parents, so who are we to monitor?
I agree with the fact that we're not their parents. I understand that. But I do think that as leaders of our communities, we have a responsibility and a duty to stick up for diversity, which is a huge part of our campus identity. And we have a responsibility to stick up for those students and from all parts of our campus that could be negatively affected by this.
Okay, thank you. We'll now hear from our Vice President of Campus and Internal Affairs, Fernando Echeverria.
Hi, Daniel. Thank you for bringing this resolution before us, and I understand where you're coming from. I think many senators have already touched on the issue, and I think I'm going to kind of piggyback off what Devin was talking about. So geofencing, especially when used in the K through 12 system, is usually a method to kind of curtail access to certain sites because they're not of age. That's usually, it's typically used because you're not all 18, so there's certain access you shouldn't have. And a lot of administrators recognize that there's a lot of different sites that can be hazardous to children and just people that are adolescents. I don't think that's something that we should kind of implement on our own university. Everyone here is typically older, and as far as the applications go, it is free market. No one's forcing you to use it. You go in on your own free will and you know what's going on and what can potentially be posted. So I think that's how we're gonna have to handle a lot of things, because we can set up a precedent where we're gonna restrict some things and not others. Because there's nothing to say that Twitter can't have the same potential. Everyone can use it, everyone can see it. If you go to a certain hashtag, you can see everything that falls into that. So there's a lot of different methods that this can also be employed, and I think UCR confessions, UCR rants, it's just hard to curtail some of those things with the use of the geofence. And I'm not saying that you're wrong, and I think that we should be responsible, but we're heading into territory that First Amendment rights can be infringed. Some students would see this and look at it as a restriction of some sort, because they should be able to use this mobile app all the time. Obviously, some people can still use it on their mobile devices if they're not connected to the Wi-Fi. So it'd be very difficult, and it could still be perpetuated. So what I want to do is I want to strike, and I'm going to motion to amend. I'd want to strike the let it be resolved that the office of the ASUCR president, that entire section all the way up to the University of California, Riverside, strike that entire line. And I'd like to amend the second to last letter for let it be further resolved and change that ASUCR condemns the hate speech within the use of the Yik Yak application and similar platforms such as ASUCR Rents and UCR Confessions as tools to spread, and then I would just kind of want to cut it off at confessions and then kill the rest of it. And then for the last let it finally be resolved, that ASUCR vows to show recommitment to the mental health of students and actively work to promote a better campus culture or climate, whichever one. I don't know.
Would you mind repeating those edits for the purpose of our Senate Secretary to be able to bring them up on the screen?
Alright, so strike the first let it be.
Is that first let it be?
Yes, strike it completely. Yeah, the one with the ASUCR president, yeah, that one.
Okay, just for the purpose of everyone being able to see what it would finally look like. Okay, thanks. Continue with that for now.
Okay, and then for the second, let it be further resolved that ASUCR condemn the use of hate speech within Yik Yak and similar platforms, such as, similar platforms, and cut it off there. And then for the last, let it finally be resolved. Oh, hold on.
ASUCR condemns the use of hate speech within the app Yik Yak.
Within the use of Yik Yak and similar platforms.
Within the use of Yik Yak.
Yeah.
I never seen it. Okay.
And then you can strike the rest after that. Oh,
Point
strike.
of inquiry. If we redact that though, this seems like it's just a bureaucratic, like we're condemning hate speech. And so I'm unsure, I agree with the points you're making completely, but I'm not sure what the purpose of passing it would be then if we redacted the geofence. Just solidarity? Or?
I would like to respond to that.
Yeah.
The purpose of this is because we have to, first of all, we're our representatives of this campus, and so if we strongly affirm a position, we then put ourselves in a situation where we can become discriminators of other students. So in this case, what this is saying is that, yeah, ASUCR as a government does condemn hate speech, but we're not saying we're going to go as far as putting a barrier or boundary on individuals. So what this does in essence is protects our integrity as a student government because we don't want to take such hard lines. You got to think about it. This demographic may be out of 20,000 students, there may be 200 students affected. So if we ban access for 200 students, sorry.
I agree with the point about the restrictions. I was just wondering about the semantics of the argument. If that's redacted,
Yeah, and then how watered down it becomes.
What are we saying then? Because I feel that if we're taking a stand against infringement of people's First Amendment rights, it wouldn't really make sense to then just make it condemnatory.
Point of parliamentary procedure. Since Fernando made the amendments, I don't think we can just add them in right now because they wouldn't be friendly amendments without asking him if it doesn't change the intention of the text unless we're changing the actual text. So that way the amendments, we have to vote on them otherwise.
Yeah, which I was going to ask you after.
I second the motion by Vice President of Internal Affairs to make these amendments.
Oh, yeah, let me finish. I have to finish the amendments and then I have to ask him whether it's okay. And then we also.
Yes, otherwise at the end of the amendment, you have to pass it. Actually, there's the Senate. Okay, Vice President, Campus Internal Affairs, if you'd like to continue.
So I'll just do the final line.
Please have no side chat.
So the last line should be read as, let it finally be resolved that ASUCR vows to show commitment to the mental health of students and actively work to promote a better campus climate.
And as I take it, your motion is still on the floor?
Yes.
Okay. Could you repeat your motion for the purpose of the count?
So we just struck the first let it be resolved, so now it should read as, let it be further resolved that ASUCR condemns condemns hate speech within Yik Yak and similar platforms. Let it finally be resolved that ASUCR vows to show commitment to the mental health of students and actively work to promote a better campus climate.
Okay. Is there a second on those amendments?
I have one more amendment.
Oh, yes.
Just for the sake of formatting, for the let it be resolved, could we take out the further in the like after we struck out the first let it be resolved, and then it said let it further be resolved, but if we take out the further.
Let it be resolved. Yes. Senator Kalinking.
Yeah, I would just like to make a point of information. I just want to let you know that I don't know how accurate this article is, but I think it's pretty accurate. There's been 10 arrests made from people who posted on Yik Yak. So, I mean, it's possible to, I guess, keep reporting someone and they get kicked off of Yik Yak. But it's an interesting article, like, is Yik Yak really anonymous?
Senator Kalinking, we should probably wait for those comments until after we have a motion on the floor to be finished voting.
Okay, well, that's all I had to say. So.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor presented by Vice President of Campus Internal Affairs on the motion of on the amendments. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Keene Brown. This does need 2/3 to pass for the amendments. Okay. So all those in favor?
Yeah. Do we know whether it's a friendly amendment or not?
It could be requests from the, yeah, I was just waiting for everyone to finish. So would this be something that's friendly to your resolution, would still keep? Essentially, do you agree with it?
I would be in favor of it if and only if the last portion, with the recommitment to the mental health and the program that you were kind of basically describing earlier with your office, putting on kind of like a campaign, proper use, that kind of stuff. I think that would go a long way. And then I think that maybe we could change the campus culture internally to therefore be used like you are describing and not how I'm seeing. So if that were to be an actual serious thing, then I would be all for it. Because ultimately I want to see you guys vote to take action to try and protect students from all of this cyberbullying and whatnot. It's a very pertinent issue, especially with mental health and that kind of stuff. That's obviously could be a huge issue at universities.
Okay. It is up to the author of the amendments, if you'd like to modify.
So now it's going to be actively to work to promote a better campus climate by, and then do you have the information somewhere? Can I yield this to you?
You could, I was just going to motion to amend it to read along the lines of ensure a positive learning environment for all students by having the Office of External Affairs have a positivity campaign and promotion of any other campaigns that would, or to promote any further action on this, or to support the day of action taken by President. But we can just stick with Vice President of External Affairs positivity campaign. Would that be sufficient?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you
Get that?
Sorry.
And we can probably repeat that for the purpose of the.
Summer, can you repeat that for her?
Okay. We work to ensure a positive learning environment for all students by having a positivity campaign run by the Vice President of External Affairs and supported by ASUCR.
Can you repeat that?
Yes, please, one more time.
Then supported by ASUCR.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that?
Can we add office of Vice President External Affairs?
Campus office of campus. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Is it external? External, yeah, no campus.
Is there a need to define like the campaign and what we would need from it, or is it just?
I think that question will probably be answered by our external affairs.
Yeah, I would say please don't, just so that we have the ability to like determine what would be best and what we could do, what we could do most efficiently. So this was only something that we decided to do today at our staff meeting, so my Highlander Action Committee hasn't had a chance to meet and discuss like what exactly they would do in response to it. So I would ask you all to not define a campaign. I guarantee you that if you charge us with doing a campaign, we'll think of something. And if you all don't feel like it's sufficient, we can definitely revisit it as well later.
Outreach Director, Secretary, does that one?
Hi, I just know I was next to speak on upcoming on the speakers list, but I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that a lot of the amendments and changes have been happening, and I don't know if, because it's already been motioned and also second, if it would be possible to amend the motion to possibly meet to draft a fully consideration of both parties as opposed to publicly doing it. And I feel it's important to meet and come to an agreement on entirely the language, because it's important to take into consideration if we do have this pass, it would be strongly suggested that either Abraham's office or other office or campaign should be included as well.
It is within the purview of this chamber to be able to table and take back to committee this resolution if they wish to rework on the wording in more private session. Would you like to?
Are you going to make a motion?
You're going to make a motion?
I move to table this, and if possible, go ahead and meet with both parties.
We still, there's still a motion on the floor. So we will, we do have two motions on the floor right now. Do I have any other motions?
Parliamentary procedure. So if this were to be tabled, it would come back to LRC and would be edited in LRC?
Yes. Yes, it would go back to committee.
Request for information.
Yes.
Are we able to find out whether Daniel what your opinion is? Would you prefer to table it and work on it a bit more, or are the edits you see something that you don't mind going up to a vote?
Honestly, I see it, it's kind of just like a bureaucratic, it's whether or not, honestly, I don't care. It's whether or not you guys want to like pass it, form like a little committee on like an ad hoc committee. So that way more like it shouldn't just be IFC and ASUCR, it should be also other organizations too. So that way the message could be easier to spread. So either that way or table it and do this. Doesn't matter, it's probably going to be effective around the same time.
Point of parliamentary procedure, when moving the table, you have to bring it back up before the end of the meeting, so the proper terminology would be moved to postpone, so we vote on it until next week. Unless you want to bring it back up before today's meeting is over, anyway, it would be tabled.
So motion, it would be a move to postpone. Move to postpone. Okay. So would you like to modify the
I move to postpone.
Okay. So we do have two motions on the floor at this time, and one is our Vice President Campus Internal Affairs, Fernando Echeverria's motion on amendments, and I believe seconded by Senator Hakeem Brown. Yes.
Can we vote on the motion to amend and then subsequently vote to table it, or?
You can.
Okay.
That's it.
But obviously, I suppose it might have some redundancies. But of course, it is entirely within the power of the Senate to be able to decide how which is on this motion. Senator Herman second.
Yeah,
That's the last comment before we move.
Point of parliamentary procedure. Is only a majority needed to postpone the?
Yes.
You need 2/3. Just a majority.
You need a majority. If you have a majority, the Senate feels that this should be postponed, then.
But an amendment would need 2/3. Okay,
If it's a friendly amendment, you don't, then it's fine. Yeah, then it only needs majority.
Point of information, did we confirm that it was a friendly amendment?
Do we confirm that we're gonna be working on it? Like,
Well, that's exactly.
actually, okay, then yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, then this only requires a majority vote for a friendly amendment. Okay, so
Wait,
I would.
the motion is debatable.
Oh, okay. Vice President, External Affairs, debating on the motion to amend.
Yeah, so,
Debating the motion to postpone.
Are you debating? You're debating the motion to postpone.
yeah, but I mean, not in the sense of like debating against the motion, but, so I would like to say that I definitely encourage y'all to postpone this. And not necessarily in the sense that, I disagree with anything on this, in the newly like revised resolution. But I do think that it would be in our best interest to really go back and take a look at it, and really develop a more coherent resolution in regards to, I think, what the real concern is, which is really the use of hate speech on our campus through multiple media platforms as opposed to just Yik Yak. What we see right now, it's a lot of whereas Yik Yak is this, Yik Yak is this, but I think a better developed resolution would include the examples of the use of hate speech generally on our campus, even if extended to other platforms that are listed in the results, but not in the whereases. So I think we can do that, and my office would still, regardless of what happens, my office would still move forward in having more logistics for this, and at that time, we would be able to present it to all of you, so that you can decide that and include that in the resolution as well.
Outreach Director Jessica Arquez.
Also, I think it'd be important to also include, I don't know if Fernando would be willing, but you had mentioned diversity, and I know that the Diversity Council is also forming, so maybe to include them on the conversation, so that way you have, I don't know necessarily if it would be a good idea, but more opinions, more expressed ideas, but I feel that that would be necessary, if you would like to include them as well.
Yeah, I thought I mentioned I wanted that for sure, yeah.
Okay. If debate on these two motions is settled, I will now proceed with the first motion made by our Vice President of Campus Internal Affairs to amend, as seconded by Senator Hakeem Brown. All those in favor of the amendments? All those opposed? And abstain. Okay. By a vote of 12-1, this motion passes. So amended. Following motion that we have heard is to postpone the vote of this.
It needs a time, the motion, move to postpone the resolution to.
Until, yeah.
Yes.
Actually, can I have for clarification? The motion should be to postpone, until next Senate meeting, but.
Right. If we have a regularly scheduled Senate meeting, then you don't necessarily need to mention a future time unless it's going to be outside of the regularly scheduled meeting.
Yeah, so it would be then to LRC.
So so the motion would be to postpone to LRC.
And postpone or refer back to LRC.
Well, that's actually, it would be a different motion. You move to want to refer the matter back to committee.
I think that's the better motion.
Okay. All right, so I'm sorry, I'm going to have to be refreshed on whoever made the motion, if they wish to modify that, which is the same. If you, to move to refer the matter back to committee.
Okay, I move to defer the matter back to the LRC committee.
Point of inquiry. The document that's going back to LRC would be with the amendments, correct?
Yes.
So then it would just come back to the floor because we only do grammar and constitutionality. So it would come back to the floor as is.
And then I withdraw my change to the amendment.
Well, then we have the authors there if they're gonna, that's essentially what we did last week with the resolution, was we helped him form the content. If we're moving back to committee, can I suggest that because I know you all would work on it ahead of time, so maybe, I don't know if you plan on this weekend, I know a lot of us will be out of town this weekend, so I don't know if Tuesday will be enough time for you to make the changes you want to the document, to meet with like the Diversity Council, as you said you wanted to, and like the Office of Internal and External, so is Tuesday?
So am I gonna be charged with like organizing all of these other groups as well and like?
No,
Okay,
we're
good,
just
'cause-
moving this back to Tuesday at 5 p.m., basically the meeting that we have every
Okay.
week. But I know really all we can do, we aren't allowed to edit content. So content edits would,
Okay.
you're allowed
Yeah.
because you're the author. So the changes would need to be made by Tuesday, essentially.
That's fine.
Okay. So, I'm sorry, Outreach Director Jessica Martinez, Ms. Highchester, did you wish to withdraw or amend your motion?
Yes, I would like to keep the original motion that I had moved before.
Okay. So, the original motion as put forward by Outreach Director Jessica Martinez is that we will postpone discussion until next week's regularly scheduled Senate meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
I object to consideration of that motion.
Okay.
Simply because it was very helpful to have him in LRC giving us information as to how he, basically the background of the resolution. We were able to actually see and feel his sentiments, and it made it a lot more easier for us to understand. So if we can have that same opportunity next week, it will then help us finally decide on how we want to stand on it. So I think it's helpful to have him actually in LRC as he was this previous week.
He will be. We're postponing to committee, or we're referring back to committee, that's what the motion.
Oh, no, my motion is still waiting till next Senate meeting, because it would be given, regardless if it was, right, it would be meeting with LRC and then afterwards.
No, essentially the motion that you're putting forward now is that it would not go to LRC, it would simply just be deliberated at next week's Senate meeting.
Okay,
without
but I
going back to
would amend
committee.
that.
Oh, okay, so would you like to re-amend your motion?
Can I open the floor to anyone who would want to?
Okay, are there any other motions on the floor at this time?
Procedure. Are we able to table indefinitely until he feels like he's ready to bring it up, whether that be at next LRC or next Senate meeting or the week after that?
Yes.
Yeah, you can postpone indefinitely, which is
Yeah.
essentially
We'll
his
get it by next Tuesday, like that's not an issue.
So I move to postpone this document indefinitely, so however quick or however long time you need is appropriate.
What's the part of the information? If we do postpone indefinitely, who will then bring the item off the table?
Yeah.
And he just said.
Yeah, it's not an issue.
Yeah, so for
Next
the
Tuesday
procedure,
with
if he
changes.
postpones it indefinitely, that would mean the resolution is killed and the author has to bring it all the way back.
Yeah, and that's what I'm.
Right.
And so we,
So,
I understand it.
Yeah, all right,
I move
that's
to-
a question for Dan Plaza, and then,
I move to call the question.
I second.
okay, if there is.
call the question.
Okay. If there are any other motions as well, okay, well, yes.
I move to refer back to committee.
Needs a second.
Point of order, he called the question, I'm sorry.
Okay. There is, okay, we do have the first motion, which is to essentially table the matter indefinitely. Okay, and this does need a second.
Point of Parliament, I motion to reject consideration of her motion, so his motion is subsequent to our motion, so we should be dealing with our motions first before we go there.
I'm sorry, did you withdrew your motion, as I
I
understand?
opened the floor to.
Yeah.
Okay, so considering that she withdrew her motion, it is now been yielded to the next person who made a motion, which was Marketing Promotions Director Raveen Rathod's motion to table this matter indefinitely. There was a motion to call the question. Alright, so we'll now proceed with that motion. It does need a second to table the matter indefinitely.
I second.
Seconded by Senator Herman Senga. All those in favor of tabling the bill indefinitely, which, just to be clear, means that it is killed as a bill, will have to be brought again as another agenda item going through LRC and Senate meeting. Okay?
Can I make a point of clarification? So the only reason I'm saying this, it's not because I feel that the scope of this resolution has broadened to beyond just yik-yak to include harassment and campus culture. And throughout the horseshoe, there's been mentions of broadening the scope of this project, including an actual action, including more applications that fall under this, including on-campus systems that create this climate. So I believe that with all these edits, it is going to be basically exactly, It's going to be basically exactly the same as putting out a new resolution, because regardless of the edits you make, you're still going to go back to LRC, you're still going to come back to the Senate floor. So this way, you have the time to make as many edits as required, broaden the scope, work with external affairs to create an actual campaign, and then bring it back to the Senate floor. And that's why I made the motion.
Okay, we did have a vote on the floor this time, so I'm moving forward with Marketing Promotions Director Ravina Rathod's motion to postpone indefinitely the YICAP resolution. All those in favor? All those opposed? And abstain. Sorry, Colette, was that for a no or abstain?
That was for an abstain.
That was for an abstain? Okay, I'm sorry, I think I took that down for no. Let me get a recheck of that. Okay, all those in favor?
Favor.
All those opposed? And abstain. Okay, at 10-3-2, this motion passes. Thank you very much. We will now proceed with the next legislation on our agenda. President Pro Tempore Devin Plaza, you have the floor.
Okay, so next on our agenda, Senator Summer Schaefer, if you would like to present your resolution, just kind of talk a little bit about it. We'll move on to that.
Okay, if there is anyone in the gallery that would like to speak on this, I can yield my time to you. If not, then I will speak on this resolution. Okay. Some students have come up to me and asked that I make this resolution to you to ask for your solidarity. There will be a group that comes on campus tomorrow. Okay, so the organization Students for Life is having a vendor come, and they put up signs that you may or may not have seen on our campus previously. They usually come once a quarter. This time they are entitled under Hub for the reservation We Care. And a lot of the images that they post can be triggering to students on our campus. And so this resolution is calling for an email to warn students that there will be triggering images in the Hub and that Hub area, and so that they have the option on whether to go or whether to not go in that area so that they are not triggered by those. Also to stand in solidarity with the resources on campus, such as the Women's Resource Center that provide resources for students that may be triggered, and their actions to aid those who may be triggered, such as having signs or writings of expression tomorrow in response. Are there any questions?
Yes, Vice President Cabinet Internal Affairs, Manager Jeffrey.
I believe the Vice Chancellor is going to make a comment on the resolution, so I'd like to yield my time to Vice Chancellor Jim Sandoval.
Thank you very much. And I want to be clear that I'm not, my purpose is not to influence the decision on the resolution, but rather Fernando and I have been having an exchange about the availability and opportunity for ASUCR to actually send an email communication to the entire campus. And actually this runs a parallel to the discussion that you just had on the other resolution. So, and I'm going to try and speak just in theoretical terms, more or less, because again, it's not about the content of this particular activity that's taking place. It's more about the right balance between First Amendment and campus climate, ironically, the same issues that we're talking about. And again, ironically, these are resolutions that ASUCR has previously passed. As recently as last year, a resolution on First Amendment when there was an incident at Modesto Community College and challenging the university on our time, place, and manner policies, and then over the past several issues related to campus climate. So first, in terms of the fundamental question as to whether or not a the university would approve ASUCR sending the Scott mail out to the entire campus. So as was discussed on the last item, we're talking about a communication that would go to over 25,000, probably over 26,000 individuals, and students, staff, and faculty. And if the purpose of the community, so actually let me take a step back. On the issue of the First Amendment, that one of the things that's very clear, and this is about climate, and Abraham, you made reference to it on the other item, is that the university is always very careful to refrain from communications related to any expression of speech that's on campus. And only under the most egregious circumstances, where it is directly a matter of hate speech, will a communication take place, legal definition of hate speech. And because we understand that the communication from the administration can in fact have a chilling effect. It can have, be making a statement about, be careful about what you say on campus, and that's not the way that the university embraces the First Amendment. So a communication from the administration, or the administration allowing communication, could have that unintended effect. In terms of campus climate, which I think is an issue here in terms of the triggering event, the way that the university received, and myself individually received, a request to send out a communication from the campus was that, and I think this was raised in the other discussion, would in fact sending an email communication to over 26,000 individuals trigger a triggering activity because of the event that's actually going to be there. So, and I think this was referred to in the last discussion as well, is that it actually could cause more people to come to the event and activity. And it's not our interest as to whether or not that happens or not, but again, we certainly don't want a position that we're influencing expression of speech, and that would have an impact on the expression that's occurring in the Bell Tower area tomorrow. As we received our request, we decided that we would err on the side, not err, that we would fall on the side of making sure that we were protecting free speech, that we were adhering to one of the most highly held values in this nation, and that we also are confident that we'll be able to deal with any of the impacts of having speech that could trigger adverse emotional reactions to it. So as was included in the discussion, that we have mobilized through our Women's Resource Center, various support from the Division of Student Affairs. We'll have mental health care providers, our case manager, counseling psychologist, our staff who are trained to deal with these. And also we all have worked with students who wanted to express themselves on the other side of this particular issue in order, and our Women's Resource Center is working with them to help deal with any trauma that could fall out of the expression that occurs on the campus. So again, I want to reiterate and emphasize emphatically that my intention is not, right now, is not to influence your vote, but rather to provide a more in-depth explanation as to why the university decided not to send out a communication when we requested. And at this point, why, if we received a request from ASUCR to utilize university systems to send out our communication, it's likely that it would be turned down. I say likely because I'm pretty certain that it would, because of the unintended consequences that it could have. Having said that, we encourage to express themselves. We encourage ASUCR to express itself in a manner that is they deem to be most appropriate, utilization of social media, etc., to get the word out. We certainly do not want to stand in the way of that. It's just in terms of the fundamental use of the university system to facilitate the communication that we made the decision ourselves not to do. I could have made this easier. I could have made this easier by saying that we don't have enough time now to do it. There's a vetting process, and any communication to 26,000 people has to go. But I felt that given the importance of this issue, First Amendment, the role of ASUCR is that additional background might be important and probably a platform for future discussions that we need to have. And I just want to close with something I've already said twice. My intention is not to influence what you do at all. Just to give some background in terms of why the university is, we fully support ASUCR in your right to function independently and make decisions on your own. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Vice Chancellor. Now we'll open up the floor for speakers. First, we will hear from Senator Keene Brown, had his hand out. President Pro Tempore Devin Plazo, Vice President Abraham Galvan had his hand out, and Outreach Director Jessica Quides. Are there any hands? Yes. Okay. Senator Keene Brown.
Yeah, this, good evening everyone, once again. This resolution is very similar to the first one, as Vice Chancellor has already stated. However, the resolution is not necessarily calling for a restriction being placed on a certain demographic of people, and so I commend the author for not doing so. But then again, we come to a situation of where we're trying to protect students from being exposed to situations where they may be triggered in any manner, to be exact. There are a lot of things that may take place on campus that can trigger traumatic events or traumatic thoughts processes. So I support this resolution, and I do like the idea that it does not call for a boundary to be placed on a certain demographic, but I do like the fact that it actually calls for education and resources. So if we do decide to vote on this, I do support it, and I do support for two reasons. The fact that it does not cause any boundaries to be placed on any individuals, and it also calls for alternatives. So the Women's Resources Center will be present, and it also calls for education. So again, I support this resolution, Summer. If we pass it as is, we pass it as is, and I'm confident that something will happen out of this. But then again, I also want us to consider the position that we are as in a new university, as Vice Chancellor has just stated. It's a slippery slope. But again, supporting this, I would feel more comfortable because it's not banning anyone, it's not discriminating on anyone, and it's actually causing for education. So on those grounds, I would support this resolution.
Okay, thank you very much. I would now hear from President Pro Tempore Devin Plazo.
Going off of what Senator Keene Brown just said, we're not asking these student groups to not come on campus. We're just asking that for those who have been affected or will be affected in the future by the images that they're portraying, we're just asking that a warning be sent out. I know, as stated in the resolution, the constitution of the group that's bringing this display onto campus says it wants to create an environment where everyone can express themselves without frightfulness of others' judgments or critical views. And I personally, as a woman with, rights and things like that, reproductive rights, etc., I feel judged by these displays, and I don't think that they foster an environment where I can feel that I'm not being judged. And I think that if I want to avoid this, I should be able to know ahead of time that these groups are coming to campus, because I just want to go to class. I don't want to go to class and have to worry about seeing displays that are gonna that may affect me in the future or may have affected me in the past. And I may not speak for everyone, but that's my personal opinion.
Great, thank you so much. We'll now hear from Abraham Galvan.
Yeah, something that I was worried would happen with this resolution was that people wouldn't understand the difference between this resolution and the resolution we just saw. But I think Akeem did a great job of really outlining the difference in the sense that it's very different for us to say that we would like there to be restrictions on the use of a certain platform for speech, and for us to say that people should be warned about the fact that this is occurring. In essence, what we're doing by agreeing to have a campaign for positivity with the AGAG is a part of it will be making people aware that it is being used for the wrong reasons, right? So in essence, I think that's what we would be doing by sending out this campus email. It's really unfortunate for me to hear that it's too late to do that, because I think we can definitely take a more proactive role in doing that. I don't think that by any means the university is limiting the ability for those individuals or that group to exercise their freedom of speech, because it's not like the university is saying, or it's not like we're gonna send an email that says, don't go here because there's bigots like doing this or that, right? No, that's not what the email is gonna say. The email is just simply gonna say that there's triggering images, and like Devin and Summer have explained, I think we owe it to students for them to be able to be aware of this issue, because it's extremely, I know that I've encountered individuals that have been extremely distraught by these images, and I think there's a certain level of privilege that we're not really understanding when we fail to do simple things like this that can have such great impact. Because yeah, for me, I can't say that it'll impact me in necessarily the same ways that it'll impact women, because guess what, I'm not gonna have an abortion, right? So I think we neglect the role that very important groups of individuals play on our campus by not offering them simple solutions to very negative and impactful campaigns or displays on our campus. I think I personally would go as far as to argue that a lot of the displays that have been here in the past by this same group could have been easily considered a hate speech, and I'm surprised that the university hasn't taken a more proactive role in identifying and putting more restrictions in regard to the exact speech and displays that are made. Because when you compare abortion to genocide, and when you target women directly for their decision to have abortions, if you look up the definition of hate speech, you can easily go to Wikipedia, and it says, in law, hate speech is any speech, gesture, or conduct, writing, or display which is forbidden because it may incite violence or prejudicial action against or by protected individuals or group. Or because it disparages or intimidates a protected individual or group. And I would argue that women on our campus should be respected and should be seen as a protected group enough, in the sense that these displays obviously incite people to make disparaging comments and to make negative comments towards women, because even it takes you just an instance of walking by there and talking to the individuals that are there for you to easily hear how they condemn women, right? And I don't think that that's fair. So I'm surprised to hear that I've been surprised to see that the university hasn't taken an active role, but I think that this is a very, very small ask that we're asking. We're not even asking the university to send this email out on themselves. We're asking just for the ability for us to send out our own campus email. Students will be able to see in the subject line that it's from ASUCR. They're gonna see that it's not from the university. And if that's a decision that the student body and their elected officials are taking, that we are saying that people should be aware that this is going on, then we should be able to exercise that authority. And I would argue that the university is actually preventing us from exercising our freedom of speech by not allowing this bill to go through, if that's what happens, right? I think that the university should take an active role, and if we make this decision to send out this email, to expedite the process for that email to be sent out. I find it very hard to believe that we are not, as a university, able to expedite a process of sending out one email. So that's it.
Okay, I will now read off the speakers list, and unless there are any of those that wish to add their name, I will close it. Next, we have Outreach Director Jessica Urquidez, Marketing Promotions Director Rabin Rafad, Senator Summer Schaefer, Senator Herman Sanga, Vice President of Campus Internal Affairs, Fernando Chavarria, Senator Ali Isles, and Senator Jason Ramirez. So for any of those who wish to speak, now for everyone peace. Okay, moving on, Outreach Director Jessica Urquidez. Oh, did you? Okay.
Very difficult to follow that, but I do agree with a lot of the issues that have been raised through the horseshoe, but I also want to take a stance on the email, just based on the fact that even before this event is going to take place, I've had individuals come up to me already having difficulties focusing in their classes, already going about their day, just knowing that there may be an email sent out, that there may be this on campus. So I just feel that it's very important to understand the wording that we use even on that email, because that's the biggest issue, especially if administration is worried that it would trigger anything with just the email. I feel that that wording is what we need to worry about, and it's not about this resolution.
Just based on the fact that there have been individuals already organizing via social media, via Facebook, creating different organized protests, even demonstrations. I just think we need to take into consideration a lot more things as opposed to just this resolution. The email is what we need to target, and I feel that it's important to the wording of this email because of the fact that just the idea of these demonstrations happening on campus, from my understanding, there is a new approach, and they did take into consideration the effect that they had when coming to campus, so they did reapproach the idea, but to my understanding, after speaking from students of each different organizations, it is an even more controversial issue by their new demonstration, using specific words that are extremely triggering. Just one word in particular, like I understand that students use the R word when you say, I apologize if this is triggering to anyone in the audience or anyone on the horseshoe, but the R word is referring to rape. Just because of the fact that when it's mentioned, even out loud to students, it triggers a lot. Just stating it, mentioning it, you bring about different emotions for others, not even for yourself. So we need to consider the wording most importantly, but I do encourage this resolution to pass. I also encourage students of the galley or administration, any participant to speak upon this if you feel comfortable, but I do stand in solidarity with all organizations, and also especially those individuals that have expressed their issues even before this event had taken place. And I want you to know, everyone, and I want to publicly say it, if they ever need anything, even if they feel that they cannot go through the therapy provided or any type of resources, that I will be willing to open my own time and listen and hear out to anything you have to say. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Jessica. Next, we'll be hearing from our Marketing Promotions Director, Reading Cloud.
Yeah. So I understand that this is kind of could set a precedent for, there are many demonstrations that happen throughout the year that could be triggering. However, this is the resolution that's been brought up. So I would like to encourage Senate to not, take doing this as a precedent to be a hindrance to allowing this resolution to pass. The fact that there are multiple organizations, multiple student groups, multiple departments taking action, that should say something to us as elected officials of undergraduate students. If our students are organizing on their own, then the least their elected student government can do is support them in that decision. If you all feel on the horseshoe, if you all have a majority that this is something you'd like to support, then that is indicative of what the student body would also like to support. There is a give and a take, and I think that we need to be very mindful of what the students want and make sure that we can do everything in our abilities to make sure that happens. So with that, I would also like to propose a motion to amend. Regardless, we'll be posting this information through all of our ASUCR social media platforms that don't include email, but if you'd like to keep it in the resolution, that would be wonderful as well. On top of it, I would like to piggyback off of Abe's comment. I mean, not only is the speech offensive and triggering to everyone, but I don't know if any of you have had to walk past this demonstration. Their pictures are highly graphic, they're way up in the air. I mean, and this is all right in the bell tower. There's literally no way of avoiding it if you don't have a clue. A mass email will allow people the necessary time and precautions to go around that. It's not only a matter of not having to listen to it, but not even having to look at these giant 10, 15-foot posters and graphic pictures without any resources or without any forewarning. And I just think not sending this email would be a huge disservice to our student body.
Thank you, Ruben. Next, we'll hear from Senator Summer Schaefer.
Okay, so thank you, Vice Chancellor, for speaking, and thank you for everyone for your remarks. I really appreciate everything that's been said. I just I have a few things in response. I just wanted to say that language is important. I'm glad that was brought up. Definitely if we send out an email in the future, which I hope we do, I hope that the language is set in a way that is not triggering. On the topic of triggering, the word trigger has been used several times, and I just wanted to make a remark about that, about how the email could be triggering and how many other things on our campus could be triggering. Thank you, Ravine, for your sentiments on that. Also, I'm in agreement, and I think that to compare certain things that are triggering to other things, to this, such as the fact that students might think that an email about this would be like an annoyance, would not be, it would be minimizing the severity of this event that's going to be occurring tomorrow. And other things that might be triggering, yes, individuals, many things can be triggering to an individual, but this is something that several students have come up to me and asked me to please write a resolution about this because it is so triggering to them. And as a representative, and I hope all of you as their representatives know that this is something several students have come up to me about, and this is something that our student body really wants, is to have an email or to have something that lets them know that there is this on our campus, so that they don't accidentally stumble upon it on their way to class and be negatively affected for a very long time after that. And some of those images might not ever leave their mind, and so it could have a very long lasting effect on the students of our campus. And so I hope you take that in mind, since we might not be able to send out an email in regards to the event that's happening tomorrow. We could, for the future, hate speech being one, as the reason that we cannot do it for the future. I think that shouldn't be the only, we can always increase the requirement on what can be sent out, hopefully, because of the feedback that we've been getting from the majority of our student body, or at least several people that have come up to me. And perhaps we could put up signs around that general area for tomorrow. And so those are my sentiments on that. And yeah, thank you everyone.
Thank you, Senator Summershade. We now will hear Senator Herman Senga.
Yeah, my first question was just that the last statement of the resolution says, "Let it be further resolved that from this point forward, the Vice President of Campus Internal Affairs will send out an email, addressing the entire student body, warning them of Students for Life or any other organization that fosters a similar environment." My question was just regarding, is there any mechanism in place, or at whose discretion is it that somebody else, some other organization is doing something that fosters a similar environment? Like, who chooses when to send out that email? That's my only concern on this. I love the resolution. However, is it at Fernando's discretion? That's my question.
Good question. I don't think we had an answer to that, but I would have to say that it would be up to the discretion of the student body, that if it came up again among several organizations, that this was going to be something on our campus that would be triggering to a lot of our students, then we would need an email.
So it'd be a separate resolution.
So we can strike that out and create a separate resolution at said time.
Great, thank you, Senator Herman Senga. We'll now hear from the Vice President of Campus Internal Affairs, Fernando Echeverria.
Thank you so much for everyone's comments. I completely agree with everything that's been said. I have a quick question for Iris. Just because emails do cost a significant amount of money, which is $25, I've already exhausted most of my email money. So if I was to continue to sending out emails, would you support me in being able to get more money from contingency to pay for the emails?
If this were to pass, I do support you. Okay. I do support this resolution also.
Thank you. That was just some logistical things that would come up if it were to pass. So with that said, of course, I'm completely for emailing, even if the resolution wasn't to pass. I think we could continue to just try. And I would just like to say that since we will be sending out emails, there is the possibility that the VCESA can deny them. So just be aware of those, but I will continuously try and continue to send an email, but they may not always show up, depending on what happens on their side. So I think I would like to make that stipulation clear, that it might not always be effective. And then lastly, we will be putting up signs tomorrow. That's actually why I sent the message on the group meeting. I did get permission that we were allowed to put signs like around the hub lawn area to make sure that students can see them and they can avoid the area. And I think that's something that we can take on our own hands, and other organizations have already started.
Okay, thank you very much. Next we'll hear from Senator Ali Oz.
Really fast. I agree with everything that everyone has said so far. I do understand the administration's concern about restricting freedom of speech by sending out an email like this. I also believe that it's a disservice to the students not sending out an email, maybe with a disclaimer, solely because of the timing of this event, that it is midterms week. People are already stressed out, and something with these graphic images could set somebody off or be a complete distraction and put someone in distress during a test that might affect their overall GPA, overall experience at UCR. I do, however, I understand the issue with something like this affecting this organization's freedom of speech. I feel, however, that there is a way to keep the email impartial, so that sending out an email to everyone, possibly just having a brief description of the event, followed with a disclaimer. There may be graphic images and certain, I don't know the exact wording right now, but certain words that may be a trigger. So just to allow students to be aware of what's going on, and if they feel they might be triggered by this, be able to plan ahead and avoid this, but at the same time maybe even describing the event so that it's not restricting their freedom of speech, but still allowing people to know.
Yes, before we hear from the other speakers, Vice Chancellor Sandoval.
Can I just make one factual clarification, that there's a misunderstanding apparently that the event taking place tomorrow will consist of that large display that was here in the springtime. That's not the display that's going to be here. It's a much smaller display that, from what we have seen, does not consist of any graphic images. It's the language on 5 banners that stand 5 feet tall that will be in the bell tower. So in thinking about the email, again, 26,000 emails going out to a display that, to a person, you know, unlike that other one where from Hinder Rocker Hall you can see it, this one, it won't be as apparent. And I'm not minimizing the impact it will have on individuals who see it. I understand that. It's drawing more attention to it than what our virtue of its inherent qualities is going to draw. Just wanted to make that clarification because it's not the same. And also one point of clarification that was on a point that was made in terms of the university allowing that one and others to be there. Trust me, we have had our attorneys all over this. And what has been on campus in the past has been protected under the First Amendment. So for us to deny that being on campus, the university would be violating the First Amendment. I'm not arguing with anybody about it. I just wanted to clarify the facts.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor. I will now proceed with our speakers list.
Are we able to respond to?
You can motion to reopen the speakers list at the end of it, and then you can't respond.
Well, then, point of order, I would say if we're adding people like willy-nilly, then we should be able to like add other people that want to talk or respond to the same things.
I'm going to disagree with the motion that I'm going to be willy-nilly. I opened up the speakers list, and then I asked if anyone would like to speak. You can motion to reopen the speakers list if you'd like.
No, I'm talking, yeah, okay, fine. I'll just motion to reopen the speakers list.
Okay. If you would like to wait until the speakers have finished, and then you can make the motion. Next we should hear from Senator Jason Ramirez.
Do you want to talk?
Oh, really briefly.
I can give my time to her if she needs it.
Oh, no, you can go ahead, Jody.
All right, well, I guess I completely support this resolution, Summer. I think it's a great thing that you brought up, and I mean, this is amazing. However, the only thing that I have to say is that previously having worked with campus tours, we would actually contact the groups that we would be touring when we knew displays like this. I understand they're not huge displays anymore, but we would contact elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, and even transfer colleges and things of that nature. Let them know, hey, would you like to reschedule? And I personally think when we have to warn visitors coming on our campus that there's going to be, potentially triggering images and, people that could be, saying who knows what, I think that it's our duty as not only ASUCR but the school to at least let the students know and at least warn them. Because, I mean, if we really have to warn visitors, we should warn our students. I think that's just common courtesy. And that's all I have to say.
Great, thank you. Last on the speakers list, we have Senator Christian Rardon.
I just wanted to ask if we're going to be like doing an email blast or warning people about this event. With regards to abortion, wouldn't we have to warn students about other things that happen on campus when like different people come and like voice their opinions on different things, as to why we wouldn't make a resolution or why this resolution just didn't include those overall, and if they could be included overall or why just in general?
Sure. Yes.
I believe that this resolution was not only for all of it, but it was taken more into consideration regarding this because students requested this resolution be made because of the new demonstration. So from my understanding, everyone had assumed that it would be the same larger demonstration, but the group of students and organization had let me know, and I was referring to the new billboard and the new language and everything that would be presented, and based on the new presentation, demonstration, whatever you want to call it, it was even more triggering than the past ones.
So this is inclusive?
Yes.
Request for information.
I think the point of order takes some precedence.
Do we not have to open a speakers list before we can keep responding?
If it was a point of inquiry, if it was a question, then there was no question asked, it was just a written comment. But yes, you can make a motion to reopen the
That was
speakers
the last
list.
person on speakers list.
Yes, so I will now open up the floor for motions.
I just have a request for information.
Oh,
Jim, you mentioned that the university had access to like images of the display, or you saw what the display was going to look like. By any chance, is that accessible to you right now so that the rest of the Senate would be able to see it as well? I think that would be really useful in informing our decision.
If I go back to my office, I can check my email to see if I still have it. And the language, I'm going to agree with the language. I mean, it's extremely offensive. But and again, I want to be clear, I'm not looking into the facts and report. There are no graphic images from what we saw in that. And having said that, we've had it in the past where we've had organizations that present to us what they're bringing to campus, but then they bring something different. Let me also add that on the organization that brings the large one is known as Bioethical Reform. That we actually have a student work group that we have been working with since they were here last spring to talk about how students and the university can better manage the situation. And what I would recommend once we get past this is it might be appropriate to have a study session with ASUCR, bring some general counsel, some attorneys to speak to the First Amendment issues. I'm certainly not fully qualified. And then just to talk through some of the interventions that we're considering. We are taking the matter extremely seriously. I want to be clear about that, and are equally concerned about the impact on campus climate.
Okay, thank you very much. Now open up the floor for motions. You can motion to reopen the speakers list if you like.
I'd like to motion to open a speakers list and react to it.
Okay, do I have a second? Seconded by External Affairs Abraham Galvan. All those in favor of reopening the speakers list? If this is not approved, we go directly to a vote. So all those in favor of reopening the speakers list? All those opposed? And abstained. 581, this motion does not pass. Speakers list will remain closed, and we'll move to the next item on which we will, if there are any motions to, is there a motion to approve this legislation or any other motions?
Before we move to, can we open the floor for the motion, or is that?
Yeah, the floor is open
That's
for
it.
motion, yeah.
Okay.
Outreach Director Jessica Hernandez.
I move to open the floor to the galley if anyone would like to speak on this topic.
Okay. This will not require a second, simply, the galley can come forward. Yes.
Set a time limit, 2 minutes. No, we don't.
You can,
I oppose.
you could request from the chair if you'd like there to be a time limit set, and then I can bring this to, we can let the Senate decide we should set a time limit.
I move to amend the motion to set a time limit to 3 minutes.
3 minutes
per speaker.
Okay.
I object only on the grounds that we didn't have restrictions ourselves, so I wouldn't want the galley to have restrictions under the later date.
And I would further just state that all the issues, we've discussed pretty much the core, and so what we may just hear, if, let me rephrase this then. If we begin a circular, I just don't want this to go circular, that's all.
At any point, people can motion to like close the speakers list.
At that point, I withdraw my motion. I withdraw my motion.
Okay. Okay, so Senator King Brown has withdrawn his amendment to the motion, so just Outreach Director Jessica Hernandez's motion to hear from the galley. This doesn't require a second. I can just use the discretion of the chair to open this up, and we can hear from the galley unless there are any senators who oppose. Okay. Seeing that, members of the galley, please come forward if you wish to speak on behalf of this. And simply state your name for the minutes, please.
Daniel Ingalls. So in one breath, you're going to say, no, we can't limit free speech. The geo fence is not an outright ban. It's just a simple thing to stop people from using it at a very specific time and location. Here, you're essentially doing the same thing by limiting the access of these people's message. And whether you agree with it or not, I think it's obvious, but as seen as offensive. But what's being argued here is not images anymore, it's language. And Yik Yak is the exact same thing. So all I'm saying is, the only difference is that now you guys know who's saying these ideas, because you know it's this group saying it. Whereas on Yik Yak, you don't know who these people are at all, and yet at the same time say, no, allow them to say whatever, but at the same time limit what these people's outreach and their message is at the same time.
Okay, I will allow responses on the comment. Marketing questions, Director Greenfield.
Just to clarify, can I restate one of the sentences in the resolution? It says, let it be further resolved that from this point forward, the Vice President of Campus Internal Affairs will send out an email, addressing the entire student body, warning them that Students for Life, will be present. So nowhere in the resolution do I see any hindrance, only that the fact that this organization will be present on campus.
Okay, I'll take a couple hands for those who wish to respond to the question for the plus. Okay, are there any other members of the galley that would like to speak? Please state your name for the minutes.
Okay, hello everybody, my name is Angelica. As a student, I feel like of course I'm aware of what's coming tomorrow, and I know that there is no images being presented, but I feel like the R word in itself, it doesn't need an image, like we know what it means. And to me, it's really triggering, especially as a female student, that the administration is impeding a message that other victims or survivors on campus who've been victims on our campus. Like, I don't think when I entered my freshman year on campus, there was never anything that mentioned the R word at all, ever. And unfortunately, I've been a victim and I'm a survivor of the R word. And with that being said, I feel like it's very disrespectful and rude that these groups are coming, but of course I understand that we can't impede their freedom of speech, right? But what about our rights? as students, I feel like I'm not the only one here. I'm not the only one who's gone through this, and I feel like as our representatives and the faces of us as the students, I feel like it's your duty to inform these students. Like, it's at the bell tower. It's been coming here since my freshman year, like the big one, the big one with the images and stuff. And I see it, and I've been triggered by it. And there was a trigger warning sign in it and everything, but of course I didn't know what was going on. But like, because it hadn't happened at the time. But now that this whole like different group is coming in and they're showing these images, and from my understanding, they're bringing in a guest speaker who's according to him, he's the survivor of abortion, okay? But why didn't they bring in the mom who's the survivor of rape? I feel like this, I would appreciate it if I would be sent an email. I wasn't informed about this topic through an email. I was informed by students, other students who were aware of this, who've been pushing for an email to be sent, and I feel like for it to be like last minute, like the day before, like for anything to any action to occur, it's really sad and it's really disheartening, because I mean, not only is this my second home, but I mean, I pay to be here, and I don't pay to be discomforted by images that are on campus. I'm not. Everybody has a right to be pro-life, re-choice, whatever it is. I mean. But it's no one's right to impose those beliefs on other people. Like, you don't have to push other people's beliefs. I mean, I get it. We're defending their rights. But again, like I was saying, what about our rights as students? We have rights. We deserve to know what's going on our campus, especially when it's images of these. It affects me. But yeah, I'm here. I've talked about it. I've mentioned this topic at the Diversity Council. I've mentioned it at RASA because I am part of RASA. I mentioned it in other ethnic and gender offices. I've mentioned it, and I'm only just one person. I can't spread it to every student here. Of course, in those environments, I know that there are people who are survivors like me, but I know that's just only a few of them, and people who haven't come out or anything out. I'm here coming out to all of you as a rape survivor. I'm a survivor, and as a survivor, I really appreciate the support of, like, even if this gets passed or not, I appreciate the support, Summer, Schaffer, and Fernando, and everybody who's mentioned their comments. I really appreciate the support as a student, because it means a lot. Because this is a heavy topic that's been going around since like Carry That Weight. Since it's taken a long time, and I don't understand why, but I'm glad that it's coming up into light, and I really appreciate how there's action being taken, whether something goes further or not. I really appreciate it, and I really hope that all of you really really support your fellow classmates, because you go to classes that are full of like 500 students, but you don't know which one of those students have been survivors of violence in general. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion to call the question. Well, actually, there hasn't been a motion on the table yet, unfortunately. But I will open up the table for motions I will open up the floor for motions at this time. Senator Summer.
I move to pass this resolution to vote on this resolution with a standing vote to show solidarity.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt this resolution by a standing vote. Okay, we have a second by President Pro Tempore Devin Plazo. All those in favor? All right, in unanimity, this motion passes. I want to thank the Galley for bringing this to our attention. Definitely want to thank Senator Schaefer for authorizing this resolution. Vice President of External Affairs,
Yeah, I would like to make a comment because I think, at least from what we've heard so far, there's a probability that this email won't be able to go out. I think we I know that's something that I'm open for if any students are willing to, or any of these senators are willing to, is if this email doesn't go through, I definitely think we have to respond, and I definitely think we need to have an escalation plan to really demand more action on behalf of the administration and the ability to let us do this, because if they're going to inhibit the ability for us to do this, that's definitely very problematic, and I can see it happening in the future. So if this doesn't happen, please reach out to me, and I am definitely willing to help you out in forming an escalation plan to respond to that.
Thank you, Vice President of External Affairs, Abraham Galvan. At this point, we will continue with the Legislative Review Committee's report. President Pro Tem Report, Deputy Plaza.
That's the end of my report, everyone. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, we are now moving on to Section G, presentation. On subsection 1, we'll be hearing from the judicial review process. We have a representative in the Office of the President, Chief of Staff Oscar Loera. Give a brief introduction.
To avoid the matter of inconsistencies with the bylaws, Constitution, and President altogether, consideration for the judicial nomination is now open. It will be open for 2 weeks, after which we'll be accompanied. I will be accompanied by Ashley Hirano, and we will conduct a structured interview. That's essentially it.
Yes, the Personnel Director asked me to speak a little bit on behalf of how she will play a role. Unfortunately, she had to leave, so I have her wording on. The interviews will be structured on asking the same questions with the same grading scale to prevent bias and provide equal process to all applicants. I understand the Personnel Director will also be present during the interviews for the final justice nomination. I also know that there's also a consultation reaching out to all of ECAB on input on the process. I was asked, I know Fernando, if you wanted to speak a little bit about the input.
As far as the process that I was notified of, it's pretty much, it's exactly what was just described, and then with the consultation of everyone in the executive cabinet. I know that he wanted me to speak, actually he did mean to include directors as well. I think his means of, he needs to provide a doodle poll for everyone to actually be present. So that's one of the notes that I think I'm going to give to Oscar. So since you're Chief of Staff, could you please have him set up a doodle poll in order for us all to be present, especially since a lot of the times are conflicting with all our schedules. Lastly, he did try to kind of gather some more information, like how the process should be done. I think a question that needs to be posed is should we only do this for the one appointment, or should we do them for all of them?
Okay. Mark, any questions, sir? Can we move on?
Yeah, just one thing. Oscar, yourself, or President Napi, could one of you please keep me in the loop marketing-wise? Let me know when the due dates are so I can make some flyers, we can put it on Facebook, get some more outreach going. So if you could please include me on that, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Actually, Oscar Loera, if you wouldn't mind being at the podium just for the brief, in case there's a Q&A for any direct questions. And Vice President of External Affairs, Abraham Galvan.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so I know that I wasn't contacted in regards to like a process for doing this. So something that so I do want to provide my feedback to you, Oscar, and hopefully you can relay that back to Nafi in the sense that I think that we need to stray away from this like consultation of executive cabinet, because like if you read the Constitution, we are the ones appointing them. So we should be making the decision as a unit instead of like a decision being made and then us being consulted and kind of like a two-step verification process. The process from moving anybody forward to Senate should be as a unit from the executive cabinet. So I would agree with Fernando that it would probably be it would be more constitutional and in line with what we should be doing to send out a doodle poll so that the executive cabinet can together interview candidates. I know I've been to interviews where there's been multiple people asking questions, and it's definitely able to be structured that way we can all be on the same page, and we can nominate people together for Senate to consider. I think that would be more in line with the Constitution.
Do you have a response for it?
Yeah, I'll relay that back.
Okay, and
Yeah, just to clarify, I do think that was Nafi's intention from his conversation with me, that we were supposed to be included. I don't know how that was relayed between you and personnel. But I know that in my conversation with him, the intent was that it was gonna be all inclusive. So I think moving forward that Nafi's trying to take the correct step forward, and then the only question I would really have is what should we do? Should we only, if whether Senate agrees that it should only be the one appointment or all of them?
Okay, there were any other questions or comments being made at the table? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much for the presentation. We'll now move on. We do have another presentation by our Vice President of External Affairs, Abraham Galvan. So I will yield the floor to him.
Alright, so I have two things to present today. First, I wanted to update you all on what's going on in terms of tuition and the discussions around tuition at the University of California level, because I know that that's been something that hasn't really been as open to students, especially not from the regents or the office of the president. But fortunately, through my role in UCSA, I've been able to get more information that I think you all should be aware about, and that I'm hoping the student body can be made more aware about through the Highlander as well. And then also so I can update you on something that's going on at Florida State University, but that I believe also impacts our university, and that I will probably be taking more action in regards to as well. So first I'll actually begin with that. So I want to read you all this letter in regards to the corporatization of the education in higher education. So as you all know, a lot of times when schools are struggling to get money or they just want more money, a good place and easy place for them to look to is corporations and businesses. But obviously this is problematic because as businesses fund schools, they have more decision-making power in what exactly happens in these schools. So I'm going to read you this letter about what's going on at Florida State University, and I'll also tell you how it's relevant to our campus as well. So the letter says, "Dear ally against the corporatization of education, Florida State University Progress Coalition, uncokemycampus.org, and FACE, Foundation Against the Corporatization of Education, are writing to ask you to join us in organizing a November 3rd protest, which is passed already. On May 21st of this year, Florida State University's Presidential Search Advisory Committee voted to fast-track the application process of Senator John Thrasher for president of the university before he so much as turned in an application for the job. John Thrasher is a 3-time Koch-funded American Legislative Exchange Council ALEC Legislator of the Year, who has been cited twice for ethics and violations, lied about his Koch funding, and supported legislation that defunds education in the state of Florida and supports the school-to-prison pipeline. He has no academic background and a legacy of supporting structural racism, homophobia, and anti-environmental policies that point directly to his political ties with corporate industry as a whole, and Koch in particular. Outcry against the PSAC motion to fast-track slowed the sham process down, but after 4 months of resolutions, petitions, rallies, protests, letters, and media against a John Thrasher presidency, FSU's Board of Trustees voted on September 23rd to appoint him president of FSU anyway. At this point, I'll pause to explain a little bit more context. For those of you that don't know who the Koch brothers are, they're basically billionaires that are long-standing involvement in politics, and they also use their extreme amounts of capital to fund organizations as well. This is more than simply a political appointment rewarding a good old boy system in Florida. A John Thrasher appointment totally captures FSU and puts it in the hands of corporate interests because of FSU's pre-existing 2008 and 2013 corrupt contracts with the Charles Koch Foundation, which give Koch power over faculty hire, graduate assistant hire, and curriculum control. The John Thrasher presidency is not an accident. FSU's Board of Trustees is the chair of the Board of Directors of a Koch-funded institute, and in Florida, the BOT is made up of the either governor-appointed positions of Board of Governors, much like our Regents of California, and our BOG is comprised of 82% gubernatorial appointments. our Tea Party Governor, Rick Scott, is Coke-funded and a strong supporter of ALEC. John Thrasher was Rick Scott's re-election campaign chair until September 23rd. So a Coke-funded governor has created a Coke-allied board of governors and a Coke-led board of trustees, which essentially gives over the administration and governance of FSU and the education system in Florida to Coke and other corporate interests. FSU is now captured from above by Coke through top-down administration and from below through corrupt department contracts and curriculum control. Today, Coke has funded almost 400 colleges and universities in the U.S., and we are certain that FSU's status as the second highest Coke-funded school is significant as a test case for what Coke is planning in the other schools it has funded. But the corporatization of education and the corruption that it supports has many faces. So, please join us in a day of action. Please join the Facebook event and invite everyone you know. Then stand in solidarity with FSU by organizing a rally, protest, or speak out, taking a group photo, changing your profile picture to a red square symbol to show solidarity, asking friends and ally campuses receiving funding from Charles Koch to join in the above social media actions and are hosting a rally against the corporatization of education. And he goes on to list other ways that we can be allies. So at this point, I want to tell you all why this is relevant to the University of California if you don't already have an idea. Obviously, I've already mentioned the role of corporate interests in our education, but in the sense that Florida State University has been severely impacted by this. They are listed as the second highest receiver of Coke money for their university. And as students at the University of California and as students in general, we ought to be in solidarity with students that are affected by these issues and other campuses as well, which is why I think it's very relevant for us to show our solidarity with Florida State University. My office has already taken a picture in solidarity with them, and we hope in the future that I'll be able to set something up so that Senate can also do the same thing. We've missed the day of protest, but I think it's still important for awareness out there. And the second reason why this is particularly important to the University of California, Riverside, is if you go to a tool that the Uncoke My Campus has provided for us to use, you can see that, I'm sorry, I just want to get to it. You can see that the University of California, Riverside actually received $15,000 from the Charles Koch Charitable Foundation in 2010. This is just based on the limited information that we currently have in regards to the funding that's available. So right now we know that $15,000 came from the Charles Koch Charitable Foundation in 2010, but we're not fully aware of how this money was spent or what the conditions of this money were. At Florida State University, for more background, the funding was tied to certain ability to exercise decisions regarding faculty and also curriculum control. So we have no idea what the money that we received as part of ASUCR, what the ties to that money were. So my office will be looking into submitting a Freedom of Information Act request from the university so that we can have a better understanding of what this money was used for and what ties this money came with. But I wanted to make you all aware of that as of right now. So that's that. Does anybody have any questions in regards to that? No? Great. So the next issue that I want to talk to you is about tuition. So for the past few years, we've been able to have tuition freeze. Luckily, I myself, I'll graduate having gone through a period where tuition was frozen for my time here. However, as we know, tuition increases affect students dramatically. Even small increases of 4 to 5% can really dramatically affect students, especially students that are in the area where financial aid cuts it for them, but not necessarily. And even students that get full financial aid, when we consider the fact that a large part of financial aid comes in the form of loans that students will have to repay, and at a time when student loan debt has surpassed $1 trillion, it's extremely problematic for any tuition increase to be on the table. UC President Janet Napolitano has announced that tuition increases will be on the table for this year. And in a letter, in an interview with Regent Kiefer from the Board of Regents to UCSD's The Guardian newspaper. Kiefer identified that there will likely be a 4 to 5% increase in tuition for UCSD and for, of course, other campuses as well. Today we were able to see, today UCSA and the Council of Presidents were able to meet with Janet Napolitano to partially discuss this as well. Nafi is at the meeting. I was unable to attend the meeting because I have a midterm that's due at 10 in the morning, and I've only had from 10 this morning to 10 next morning to write it, so it's a take-home paper, and I couldn't miss because of that. But I have been in contact with the other UCSA folks that have been there, and I can tell you part of what's relayed back in the sense that, I'll just read this to you. Napolitano unveiled a new tuition policy, which he said the regents will be adopting at their meeting on the 19th. So this is obviously a few weeks away.
November 19th?
This November 19th, the 19th. This new policy is intended to address the flat and spike cycle of tuition to allegedly provide stability for families. In short, the policy caps tuition increases at 5% and makes any increases directly tied to the amount of funding received by Governor and Legislature of California. UCOP will identify a number that would prevent tuition from increasing, and the government's failure to provide anything short of that number will trigger a proportional increase in tuition of up to 5%. If this sounds like hostage taking, it's because it is. UCOP is putting a gun to the head of the UC student body and extorting the governor and legislature for more funding. So you can read this on your own if you have Kevin Salvo as a friend on Facebook. But basically, this is extremely problematic because not only are tuition increases bad by themselves, but we are being told about this potential increase barely weeks in advance notice of this meeting. So how are we expected to have enough notice to respond and to come up with appropriate reactions to this increase? I know that the regents are supposed to notify us a certain amount of time in advance, so UCSA will be looking into, and we'll be looking into how legal it would be for them to do this. But obviously, this should be something on your radar. I expect senators to be very involved with the awareness of the fact that this is going on and also in the response to this. UCSA has a petition. It's tinyurl.com/fundtheuc. But obviously, this petition will not be enough. We can write a petition demanding that they not increase our tuition, but at least from my perspective on this campus, it really will take a lot more action for us to prevent something like this from happening. My office will be developing an escalation plan in order to respond to these potential tuition increases. But obviously we know that the regents now meet at UCSF in San Francisco, probably the least accessible UC campus to students. And obviously, that's for a reason, right? It impedes our ability to get out to the 19th. Obviously, we're not going to have hundreds of students from UCR go up to their meeting and tell them that they can't do this, right? But we should definitely take action on our campus because it's incredibly ridiculous that our own chancellor took a pay raise while discussions of tuition increases are taking place. And if you all were at the last town hall that the chancellor had, Arturo Gomez, which is our national affairs officer now, will be soon, he asked the chancellor why he did this when he knows that tuition increases are on the table, and the chancellor simply responded with the fact that all factors must be considered. UCR students should have a resounding no to this response by the chancellor. We should be demanding our campus administration, especially our chancellor, to act as leaders in response to Napolitano and the regents' decision to talk about tuition and to possibly, and likely, if we're going to be realistic, increase tuition. So please be on the lookout, please be aware that this is going on, and please be mindful of the communications that I'll be having with you as we move forward, because I definitely will want to organize a response to this on our campus. And if possible, I would like to go out to the Regents meeting. I have to check my schedule and see if I can fly out there, but I do think it would be very critical for us to have some UCR student representation up there. with that being said, that's mainly it in regards to tuition and increases. But I will remind you all, just as a last note, to always remain active leaders in your positions as senators. Unfortunately, it's been brought to my attention that the Council of Presidents has not been nearly as adamant in requesting for a tuition rollback from the regions as I believe that they should be. UCSA has made it clear that we are not only demanding that they not have a discussion increase, talks about discussion in tuition increase, but also that they not only freeze our tuition, but roll it back. Because tuition is incredibly high. They should be looking at alternative solutions. And the UC, I can tell you that the UC has not taken any considerable effort to look for alternative solutions against tuition increases, and they have definitely not been supportive of student-devised solutions for it, right? We've supported multiple bills, and where have the UC Regents been in advocating for these legislation, right? So hopefully the Council of Presidents can get on board with UCSA and firmly demanding a tuition rollback. I'll be talking to Nafi to make sure that he is an active voice for this perspective in the Council of Presidents. And I know that UCSA will definitely remain an adamant opposition to this discussion. So does anybody have any questions or comments or concerns?
Yes, I just had to know. Could you possibly send out the documents that you're referring to everyone on the horseshoe? Just so that they know it's all compiled into one so that we can access it, so they'll be able to read it. So everyone can.
Yeah, I can.
Okay, and secondly, for your escalation plan, have you thought to any specifics of how Senate could get involved?
Yeah, so I definitely know that there's many ways that Senate can be involved, and I can tell you that I am probably an individual that will develop an escalation plan that will lead us to a couple places. So I understand if folks aren't able to be involved at every stage of the escalation plan. I won't reveal that at this time because I'm aware that there are many folks that could inhibit our ability to perform what we need to do if that's public. But I will be in private communication with all of you senators to tell you how you can get involved and how you can respond. But I guarantee you there will be something, and if we're able to garner the capital that we have as senators, we should make the student body aware of this, and I am pretty sure that the student body will be more than concerned that this is even a topic for discussion.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments or concerns? I'll restrict to Jessica Keatons.
I did speak to certain students about this, and they did take a stance, just based on their organizations. Being a part of an umbrella organization that reaches out. We also discussed it the day that we were presented with this information. Thank you for sharing everything on Facebook, because now everyone knows, and we also began organizing.
Yeah, I will say in response to that one small step that you all can take as of this moment is if you go to my Facebook, I don't know if all of you have me as friends, but we have or if you go to the UC Student Association Facebook page, there's a cover photo that shares the petition with students and also demands a fee rollback. It highlights the fact that tuition is currently at $12,192 for in-state students and around $35,000 for out-of-state students. So you can definitely use social media at any moment. When you go home right now, you can share that. You can share the petition that I just recently shared on my Facebook as well. So that's one small step that you can take right now. And like Jessica said, it really goes a long way in providing awareness to different groups and students that I may not be able to reach out to on my own or through my Facebook page. Any other questions or concerns or comments? No?
Okay.
Thank you all.
You did have one more point.
I did have one more thing. I apologize. I thought that was it, but I also need you all to confirm Arturo Gomez as my National Affairs Officer. So as I mentioned to you all last week, we're having a staff change. Unfortunately, we had to let go of our other National Affairs Officer, but I mentioned to you all that I would be recruiting the other members of the USSA board for this position, and Arturo offered to take up the position. I think he's highly qualified. He is extremely knowledgeable about the state of politics and higher education on a national level. and he has been working in the office. He's also extremely enthusiastic about getting involved, and he has taken initiative to already write resolutions for the USSA board to consider. So I think he'll do a really great job at representing us. So I just need you all to confirm him so I can send him to their board of directors meeting this later in in November, sorry. So if I can have a motion to approve the new National Affairs Officer.
Okay, just to be clear that, like all personnel matters, this will be a closed ballot. Wait, Senator Summer Schaefer, you told me that you had ballots to pass out, okay? Okay, so motion to approve Vice President of External Affairs Abraham Galvan as National Affairs Director. Okay, motion by Senate, I'm sure Jessica Quitas, do I have a second? And second by President Pro Tem Devin Plaza. Okay, Senator Summer Schaefer, yeah. They're already being passed? Okay, great.
They're there for future references.
While you all collect your ballots, I will say this so that the galley can know and that you all can, just to reaffirm it with you all. For the labor officer position, which will now be vacant with Arturo's assuming the National Affairs Officer position, we will definitely be putting out an application for that. It'll be open to all students. It'll be very short and concise, and we'll be sending out and spreading awareness about it as much as we can.
Okay. You know, order, by a vote of 15-0, this motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, now, as I understand it, there is a third item added onto the agenda when we amended it, amended by Senator Colette King to show the Vote Now video. Now I'm going to direct the Secretary to bring the video up onto the screen. If you want to speak before over there.
Yes, I would, actually.
Okay.
Do I have to make a motion for that?
No, please go ahead.
Hi everyone. So last week last week I was sick, so I wasn't here. But the week previously, I had talked about a sketch series of videos, and so we kind of tried it out. I call it sketch series because the name is kind of impending. I don't really like the word sketch because it has like other connotations associated with it. So we'll probably change the name. We did a trial run to encourage young registered voters to vote this year, and that was kind of inspired by Abraham Galvan with his he wanted more students to register to vote, but this was to encourage those registered students to actually vote. The video was like very last minute. It was, like I said, a trial run, so there were some things that were a little complicated that we had to work through, and it wasn't exactly how we wanted it to turn out. But despite these things, I think it turned out pretty well. Also, the video was created with the help of Jackie Jacoby, Daniel Garcia, who is the artist, and Rafine Rathod, and I probably messed it up the second time too. But yes, so we all had a helping hand in this video, and it was approved by me. So here's the video. Oh, can we stop because there's no sound?
Right. Yeah. I have yet to figure out. Last year we actually had to hear it from the laptop. I wasn't able to actually fix the
I
issue.
can play it on the laptop at the same time.
Okay. There
Wow,
have
that
been
was very.
sound issues. It's usually pretty unusual to get.
Why don't you bend the mic down to the speaker?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, try to be careful because that. Yeah. So we'll,
Oh, can we stop it? Thanks.
Okay. Unfortunately, I think we're gonna have an issue with sound. If you'd like to still view the video, and it's
Yeah,
Is
can
the
I
video
play it?
itself?
I'm gonna play it off of my computer at the same
Okay.
time.
I'm sure we just do like a countdown of 3.
Kind of. Hold on.
I'll let you do the countdown.
The music is like what really makes it kind of cool. So
No,
that's
no,
why
I
I'm
believe you.
like kind of
Yeah.
bummed. All right. So 1, 2, 3.
So here's the deal. You've probably heard a lot of talk on campus lately about elections, about voting, about engaging in your democratic right. You've had countless students remind you that this isn't just local or national, it's global. But that's all just talk. Now it's time for action. By 2015, 1/3 of the electorate will elect us. But wait, in 2012, only 50% of the electorate's voters participated in the presidential elections. And yet, young voters are still the deciding factor in the presidency in winning states with high voting. They ask yourself, why does this vote? Your vote matters.
All right. Well, we all get the gist. Okay. So.
It's on the ASUCR Facebook page.
Yes. Oh, can we stop it? Thanks. All right, so there's a few things I'd like to point out on this video that I didn't like, and actually, yes, I still want to point them out. But I also would like for all of you to watch the video, so that way you can give your feedback. I was kind of reluctant giving my feedback because I didn't want to create a bias, but there were some things that I didn't like. But they were not the artist's fault at all. It was definitely something that I should have worked on with the artist. For instance, the propositions. I wanted more animation for the propositions. The propositions were simply written down, and it was a little dull. So that was actually the highlight that I wanted of the video, but it didn't happen, and that's okay because this was, again, a trial video. So there were some things like that. Also, the way that the video is filmed is in portrait. So that kind of was a downer as well because it wasn't as big as I wanted it to be. Okay, so I wanted to show you this video because I wanted to create an educational sketch series in order to inform students on a more entertaining way to, I wanted them to be informed in a more entertaining way because there's a lot of issues that happen on campus. And yes, students should take the initiative and be informed on these issues. And we can get upset with them all day if we want to. But the thing is, sometimes students don't have the time to. So I felt like this sketch series would actually help to entice students to get involved with issues such as voting, which isn't an issue, but something you should be involved in. And I spoke with Abraham about covering the topic of tuition increase, but I haven't really followed up with him on it because I wanted to see how this video went. We have 114 views, so not that great. But the thing is, we actually did not advertise as well as I wanted to. We shared it on my Facebook, Daniel's Facebook, and your Facebook. So there wasn't a lot of views. You shared it too? Oh, you
I
shared it
think a
too?
lot of us did actually.
Yeah,
Like
we
7
actually-
times.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, everyone. Thank you for sharing it. Well, we got 114 views out of that, and that's great. But I kind of want some more views, so we're going to have to work with Ravine more. We're going to have to work all together to broadcast these videos out. There's also some certain logistics I'm trying to work out as well, because I know that there are more topics that I want to cover other than UCSA, such as topics of like how ASUCR works or projects that are coming up and for students to get involved in. Yeah, it'd be kind of cool to have like a 1-minute video talking about like what projects are coming up in ASUCR, so that way students go, oh, that's really cool, I'd like to be involved in that. With that, I want to create different categories of it. Also, I feel like I want to get more opinionated videos, and I know that some opinions don't want to be represented by ASUCR since it wouldn't be the opinion of the student body as a whole, so I'd probably have to create a section on that. And yes, I think that's all I wanted to cover, but I want some feedback. Is that actually appropriate for this time? That is that?
Yeah, no, that's cool.
Awesome.
Okay, so, floor is open for senators with questions or comments. Senator Key Brown.
Isn't this, well, I know you're working directly with the marketing director. Is there something that maybe the marketing committee could do as far as providing feedback to Colette and what she's trying to accomplish?
Yeah, so we've been working on this together, and it's been a collaborative effort. We've already discussed these points brought up on what to improve for the next video. Colette also has an idea for the next video, so we're going to meet with the artist and start the brainstorming again. So these issues have been addressed internally as well. Yeah.
But thank you, Akeem. Actually, I know this sounds really bad. I really didn't know we had a marketing committee, so thank you. That helps out. There's so many committees.
Yeah, it's very good. It's great. Okay, are there any other questions, concerns, comments?
I would also like to state that I am trying to be more aware of the resources that are available to me, such as like filming, and I actually want to allow Ravine to supervise it, but I wanted to have a more hands-on approach with it. I wanted to actually have a video editor that I can directly use if that is allowed, which I'm glad you mentioned the marketing committee. I'm sure I can find someone there. If not, I can find one myself. But,
Marketing director Ravine Fund.
Sorry, that's under my office because the videos do go on the ASUCR YouTube and they reflect the office. So if you have any concerns with the video editing, you can definitely come talk to me. I've started video editing for about 1.5 years. My vice chair's been doing it for 3 to 4 years now, so he's also very talented. So you can take a look at our work. If you don't like it, we can definitely discuss any improvements. But I would prefer to keep it within the office.
oh no, that's great, because I want it within the office. It's just I wanted someone that would be able to just work on videos, only because I understand that there's other obligations that you have, and I just didn't want to burden you with more projects. So your video skills are very good, and I want a duplicate of you. So if you can find one, that would be amazing.
Yeah, no, that's not a problem, because it's a project for ASUCR. I mean, those are my responsibilities anyways. So as long as, we establish deadline dates and stuff like that, we can definitely meet those requirements.
Perfect, thank you.
Senator Delaney, did you have a point?
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, this is fantastic, I love it. I think this could happen maybe privately, unless anyone else had any insight or requests. I love it though, I think it's awesome. Thanks. It's great.
Okay. There are no more questions. Thank you so much, Claire. Moving on with our agenda, to everyone's favorite agenda item, collaboration. Section 1, we have Prison Approaching Court, Devon Plaza.
Hi
You have
everyone.
the floor. Go ahead.
Sorry, thank you. Hi everyone. I'm going to keep it very brief. So this summer I've been working with Ravine and with athletics to kind of improve the relationship between us and athletics. So we support them, they support us, and we can kind of use both platforms as a marketing platform. I was planning on doing like with one of my projects, like getting some basketball hoops out during New Year's to get like the athletes working with students so they get to meet each other, interact. Unfortunately, due to like a personnel issue going on right now, that'll be postponed until winter. But if anyone is interested in like working with me, please come see me. I have a meeting with the president of the Student Athlete Advisory Committee tomorrow at 12:15. You're welcome to come with me. We're going to discuss the homecoming barbecue and hopefully how we can be involved in marketing, and if we can get like a barbecue grill out there as well, and kind of, you know, meeting people and promoting athletics and things like that. So if you're interested, please come see me tomorrow at 12:15. I'll be in the office. That's all.
Are there any questions, comments, observations about that agenda? Marketing Director Green.
Finance willing, and if we have enough volunteers, I think it'd be really cool if we can set up kind of like a hot dog station and get to the tailgate, have our tent there, kick it with everyone. So just keep that date in mind and keep it open. I think it'd be really great if ASUCR could be there.
Let's make sure that we also include vegetarian options at barbecues. I know that there are different options, but I know that there's also people with allergies and just make sure to be inclusive.
I'm vegetarian as well, so there will definitely be veggie dogs.
Wonderful inclusivity there. Okay. If there were no other comments or perspectives to be added, we can continue. We have our Vice President of Campus Internal Affairs, Fernando Echeverria, has collaboration with Mr. Graham.
Cool. So one of the first things I want to bring up is I sit on the student tech feed, and one of the challenges that they have proposed to us is to create a project for the tech feed to take on. So pretty much what the tech feed does is that it's a student feed that's paid and that goes directly to technology. And then, so it's pretty much deals, it can be from Wi-Fi all the way to like online classes. So it can be a wide range of things that go through that committee. So pretty much I want to challenge Senate if you can come up with an idea. I'll also be brainstorming my own ideas, but I want to give you the opportunity to kind of create something that's technology oriented that you want to see implemented on this campus, or an improvement in a technology that's already on campus. And then you can offer that, and then I want you to present it to that board. Of course, you'll have my support, but this is kind of your opportunity to really make a huge impact on the university, especially with whatever idea you come up with. And it's not very few students really get to kind of go in there and be like, I want this, I want to propose this, and we can listen to it as a board. So I want to kind of open that opportunity to you, and the date for submission will probably be early winter quarter. The next thing is we've developed an internship program through my office. Anybody that wants to get involved with that, we've already started the process. We just need to verify a couple things with the deans. But essentially what's going to happen is the Chamber of Commerce of Riverside is going to notify us that there's internships available, and then we tell the colleges here at UCR, and then they will gather applications from the students, and then the students send the applications to us, and we'll be the liaison to send those applications back to the Chamber of Commerce. And then that way we have a direct pipeline to offer job opportunities to students here at UCR. So if anybody wants to get involved right now, if you want to like see any modifications, or you want to see anything like something else to be developed within it, this is the perfect time to do it before we like kind of solidify all the plans. So I just wanted to kind of offer that up to anyone, and of course you can just talk to me. And the last thing, this is something that I'm going to throw at marketing as well as just everyone. So we as ASUCR, we try to affect the most students possible. I think that one of the challenge, I want to like offer you a challenge just as the internal vice president, is to how many students can you include in your projects? How many different students can you actually get to be involved and to actually start building our name? Because as my communications component of my office has had a lot of conversations with students, with different student organizations, and honestly, they don't all know about ASUCR. They don't know what we do. They don't know what we provide. And I've met with over 300 organizations at this point. So I really want to challenge you all to include as many students as possible in all your projects, get different student perspectives, see what they want, but as well as the projects that you are taking on to also affect a great amount of students and for enough students to know. And the other thing I want to propose is that our Facebook and all our social media needs to be shared by you all, and you all need to invite your friends, because the only way we're going to get more likes on our stuff is essentially if you invite current students. The problem with our social media now is that a lot of the students that are on it are antiquated. They don't go here anymore, or they're just us. Like all the ASs combined have just kind of culminated into like at least 500 of the likes we have. So we need to invite a broader range of students to actually be a more effective campus government. And that's all I'm going to say.
Senator Herman Sanger, the marketing director.
Yeah, just for a request for information, and this is just because I have a little insider knowledge on your office. I do know that the internal has taken upon themselves, I believe, to seek volunteers for Plant a Tree. I was wondering if you could elaborate on that, just so everybody knows, and maybe invite some of the AS members or other organizations. Because I got an email from it as a leader of an organization.
So this other thing, this is through our GCAP branch. Pretty much we were donated about 400 trees, and we're seeking out student organizations to go and plant them, or just student volunteers to go plant them across the university. There's three allocated slots, like three allocated days for you all to go plant a tree. And we've invited all the student organizations, so if they want to take a tree, and thank you for pulling that up because I don't remember the dates. But one of the upcoming dates is Thursday, November 6th, so tomorrow, 1 to 3. Tuesday, November 18th, 12 to 2. Thursday, December 4th, 1 to 3. And if you want to kind of have your organization like be sponsored and really have their name recognized, you should contact Alejandro Perez, who is my internal lobby or as well as contact Herman and the other member is Carlton.
Yeah.
So you can contact any of those three and they can give you more information or they can forward the information to you. So just make sure and then of course we can also extend that to ASUCR. I think we all should go plant a couple trees and especially promoting sustainability on our campus and promoting green initiatives in general. So thank you so much for your time and thank you Herman for bringing that up.
Thank you, Vice President of Campus Internal Affairs, Manager Maria. Next is my item of collaboration.
Yeah, perfect. Just a quick add-on to what Fernando said. Please, if you noticed, I've started to tag a lot of you in pictures and albums and things like that. I've been cross-posting on our Facebook group. But honestly, the impact of inviting and sharing is huge. For example, when we had committee applications go out, the night it was made, I invited about 250 to 300 people that I know that go to UCR, and that next morning, it was still around that 300 number of invited. However, the outreach of that post was over 750 students that were reached. So even if you just invite them, even if they just look at it or just even say not attending, it still gets out to a lot more people, and marketing is a complete group effort in terms of broadening our audience. So the more you can like and share and all that, and I know I've said this a lot, but please do so, please continue to do so. It's been great, there's been a lot of effort already, so thank you, but just keep it up and it's really helpful.
Great, thank you so much. Next section is my collaboration item. And I mentioned this in various emails, actually probably in person with most of you here, that I would gather input on how we move forward on the ASUCR accountability drive, and right here's exactly where I tend to make good on that promise. I do want to hear your input going forward on this because this will be the system that I use to ensure that our office is accountable from students. Essentially, Constitution and bylaws mandated. This is what I was elected to do. I am by nature a collaborative person, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to hear from you because I did have to put a system in place. Of course, before Senate came into session. It has been in place so far for a couple weeks now, I believe. I gave a presentation on it. We tried it out. There were concerns, and I understand that much of the contention was that I might not have explained my rationale as to how I reached my decision as well as I could have. I do take responsibility for that. So going forward, I do want everyone to be in the know, and this to be an open process. My intention was just simply to create a centralized process that could use future years. There's a consistency from year to year, future ASs, something that we could build upon previous projects, and something that was there, quick, easy to access. So really at this time, I just want to kind of bring a motion to you to think about, just for collaboration, I'm gonna take all of your advice and input to be able to work with the system going forward when it comes to staying accountable. So I do want to hear from all of you. Yeah, I could, it does not necessarily just Senate, I can have the ECAB as well. So Senator Team Rep.
Yeah, I would move to, maybe we can set up a private meeting. We can all come and talk to you. Individuals that are willing to give you their input can come and see you. I don't think this is the appropriate time to have that discussion or debate.
I simply wanted to bring it to everyone's attention when everyone's here. I can understand it's a little bit difficult to try to like maybe send out to have an ad hoc before. Yeah, no, if that is totally something that I'm willing to take under. If you all want to meet at a separate time later this week, I can post something on an email. If everyone's in favor of that. Because I do want to hear some honest feedback on how we can have a more open process on this.
Just to clarify, you mean individually?
What?
As a group?
No, what I mean is if individuals are
Have
interested,
ideas, then
yeah,
talk.
then go private.
Okay, I simply just wish to remind that I do need a process immediately because right now we're kind of in a bit of an up in the air situation of not really having a process that does impede. I do have to follow the Constitution. Yes.
From what I understand, we're technically, since there is no new process in place, the original process that's currently stated in the Constitution and bylaws would stand. So what that means is we have 4 hours of office hours to do until we can decide on a new plan. But I just want to make it clear that there's no urgency right now because there is a plan in place for us to follow. So I do appreciate Mr. Chairman's attempt to streamline the process. However, there are some things that we all need to discuss, and I think it would be good for us all to give our personal input. I have done so myself, and that's the reason why I'm saying that we all should go and give their input and then come to a consensus on how we want to move forward, because accountability is something that is important to us as a student government. But I think making hasty decisions and binding decisions that could become problematic if everyone is not clear. So thank you.
President Pro Tem Gordon Plaza.
I just have a suggestion. I don't want to like limit discussion or anything, but maybe if we all got together before the next Senate meeting at like 6. I know we're all kind of in and out of the office before Senate meeting, but half an hour isn't much time, but maybe it's a start. And if everybody comes prepared with like a suggestion or something like that, whatever they want to get off their chest, I know we'll all be in the office at that time. It's just a suggestion though.
Senator Summer.
Oh, I was just gonna say, the previous system, there were specific hours where students could come and talk to senators, and some students have expressed that they felt that that was a good thing because they could come talk to us, and I just wanna make sure that we're being accessible to students as well as being accountable to them, so maybe, I'm not sure, is there somewhere where our information is like posted or somewhere where they can get an email so that they can create an appointment with us? Because I really like the system that's in place right now. I think the accountability form is important. And as someone who was watching Senate last year, I do think it is an important thing. But I was hoping that we could also be more accessible to the student body if they wanted to have meetings with us and come talk to us in our office hours as well.
Okay, actually, I'd like to explain a little bit of the rationale behind that. A little bit from just building off the issue that we had coming from last year when it came to office hours is that there would be senators who would set their office hours at very unavailable times, and there would be big chunks of when students would come in and there'd be no one available. What I wanted to do was have the availability to have people in the office by appointment. Senators who come in can request a meeting and with any senator, and to do it by appointment, because all the duties that are prescribed can be carried out from the office. However, I wanted to add the given flexibility that if you may not be in the office, you are still able to perform your duties given the whole advantages of technology to be able to work beyond just the physical location of the ASUCR building.
I understand the rationale. I was just wondering, to set up appointments, is there a process to set up appointments so that the students can have Like meetings a with piece us? of paper or website? Like somewhere
at the front desk, but is there any way that they can contact us instead of a meeting with us so that we're accessible to them and tell them?
Right now we have it where they just kind of leave their contact info at the front desk and they relay that back. But we'll definitely work a little bit more on that process to make it a little bit more open. Okay, I'll restrict Jessica Kiedis and then Vice President Abraham Galvan.
Well, what I have done is, I was actually also concerned about this, so based on the fact that I have the outreach application out, and there's a lot of students, is I did open time throughout the entire week to have application process, but what I did is the most I could do because not anyone's fault in particular, but the website is down, so it's difficult to reach other than, social media and things like that. But I just posted on my whiteboard my available times, and I also let the front desk know so students are able to contact me during those times. But other than that, it's basically a time that you set and you make known. That's the process, from my understanding, that you would reserve office hours based on your own availability and your own initiative.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it kind of on the same line, like, I would definitely encourage you all, that if you found that it's been hard for students to reach out to you, to set your own kind of office hours or whatnot and post them somewhere. I know that right now I don't have necessarily any office hours, but I'm available by appointment, always. And it's a little bit easier for us because we have business cards that the front desk can give them, can give students as they come in. So it would be, I think maybe something that we could consider doing is collecting our contact information, at least for the senators and all of us, like our emails, and if anybody wants to opt into having their phone numbers there, available like on a roster or something that the individuals that come in can be given so that they can have the contact information or at least the emails for everybody available for if they want to email you to set up an appointment or something like that. I think that might help out as well.
No, I appreciate that. Senator Keenan.
Yeah. One thing that I do want to make very clear to this assembly is that the rules that are there are just fine, and Mr. Chairman is just trying to improve the current process. But as I spoke with him, not on the horseshoe, of course, but in his office, it would help that when you frame your request or statements in regards to accountability, that you first state that, hey, you all, I'm asking this of you. You better believe that you can demand this of me. I think what that does is sort of eases the tension because, I mean, if any of us have read the Constitution, which we should have, we know that there are certain powers vested into the legislative branch, whereas there are certain powers vested into the executive branch. And from the framing and the way that the conversation has been thus far, it appears as though the Senate is subordinate. And I want to make that clear that it is not the case. So even though Mr. Chairman is presenting changes, it is still up to Senate to ratify those changes and make them active changes. So I just want us to be clear that we give our feedback to Mr. Chairman and that we are also looking into what already exists and if there would be any extra additional burden outside of what we're already required to do. Thank you.
Vice President Anderson.
Yeah, I completely sympathize with what Akeem just stated. I believe that in order for us to add more stipulations to the senators, there's going to have to be more stipulations added to the executive cabinet. I believe that in order to move forward from this, we're probably going to also have to have some sort of check, which is essentially what a lot of this conversation is stemming from. Is that checks and balances? Is that what real check does the legislative branch have over the executive branch? So I think that's the conversation that's going on. I think with my conversation with you and Nafi, we've also discussed that we'll also be participating in the drive. So it won't just be you, it'll be also us to some capacity.
Sorry. Yes, I definitely would like to say that for the sake of checks and balances, I myself will volunteer absolutely to submit my own accountability form for the Senate to be able to review. Because as the King brings up, a system of checks and balances is very important. In a conversation of framing, it may have been presented, or at least the explanation or rationale, that this was something that inferred that Senate was subordinate. And I do actually want to make a correction. I do want to make a clarification on that, that this was simply just a misunderstanding on clarification on that. At the end of the day, my position requires me to have a mechanism to keep Senate accountable. This is something that I was elected for. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm mandated to lead this Senate to success. And so, however we get there, I definitely want to make sure that everyone is heard from and how we can do that. Like I said, I'm a very collaborative person by nature. So, I mean, however we can get there is something that I have no problems with different. Yeah.
And one last thing, our last meeting, we had, and we referred certain things to committee or special committee. Some of the things that I wanted to discuss regarding to that special committee would also discuss accountability, and not accountability vested into just one person, but accountability being vested into a group of individuals to determine if individuals are carrying out their obligations. So if there is anyone else that wants to be a part of that, I've definitely selected individuals who have come to me and said that they wanted to be a part of it. But if there's anything someone would like to add to what the scope of this committee would then do, I'm definitely open for suggestions. It's just constitutionally, by law, however you look at it, there are certain requirements that your office does that sort of dilutes the purpose of separation of powers and checks and balances. And it's a lot of power invested into your office that shouldn't be in your office unless our government was set up as a corporation. Then at that point, then a chairman of the board would then have those rights to exercise. But in this case, we are a bicameral government with a system of separation of powers and checks and balances. And your particular position, the way that it's written, sort of compromises the reason that we have that. So that's one thing that I definitely want to look into as this committee. So if there's any feedback in regards to that, please do share.
I definitely understand. I definitely understand your point. That would probably have to be a bit of a separate conversation, mainly because that's probably a constitutional amendment. I do want the discussion about what we can do for this year, because the situation that we're in is how we're going to go forward. As it stands, from the interpretation of the bylaws and constitution, the accountability drive as it stands is something that's within my discretion to set up. So it's something that will be in place until we reach a final decision. So I do encourage everyone to continue to fulfill those obligations as being able to meet the standards that have been set.
But it's not an obligation if we have not ratified it. So then the default system is the one that exists now.
Well, the ratification would be if we made it into a bylaw. Just to explain that a little bit, the bylaws are the bare minimum of what a senator has to do to not be fired. The absolute bare minimum. However, it is up to the discretion of the chair to be able to set a standard, but this varies from chair to chair. So current EVPs can set a higher standard or a lower standard, and there isn't necessarily an inconsistency. Going forward, some of these things that have been presented will be proposals for a bylaw update. However, as they exist right now, they're simply just within the chair's purview to be able to set. But obviously, I want to hear from you on how to essentially how to reach the best decision possible. This isn't something that exists in a vacuum, and I'm not going to be the one making this decision on my own. So that's Vice President. And it's
I move to the next agenda item with the understanding that individuals will come speak to you if they have any suggestions on how to do the process.
I second the motion.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Are there any other motions? Okay, seeing that. Motion to table. Come talk to me individually. We have a second. All those in favor? Okay. All those opposed? And abstain. Okay. Vote of 14 now. I'll hear from you all separately. Okay, next we have our item section I, public forum. If there are any members, Considering the full house that we have, that would like to come forward, I'm fairly certain that they probably aired their opinions prior to the legislation was up to vote. However, if there was anyone from the gallery that would like to come up and speak, yes, please by all means.
I just wanted to thank and commend the Senate for the discussion on the both resolutions, and just wanted to let you know that what we will do is our best to get a letter out to the student body in response to the resolution that passed and unanimous. The one thing that I do want to make sure is that you're careful with language. And again, this is in the spirit of the points that I made in terms of I'm going to use this term very intentionally, the reverence that we have for First Amendment and the precedent that might be set with it. And that is that it be as neutral as possible and focus on the triggering impact that the display might have on fellow students, and not, and it's entirely up to you, but not making a commentary on the content, which I know is important, to many, probably the majority. But it's entirely your letter. So we'll do our best to get it out tomorrow. My understanding is that the display will begin at 11 o'clock, so we have a little time in the morning. But you might want to have a few of you with the letter just to make sure that the language is in alignment with what you think is important to communicate. And I will conclude by asking you to think very carefully again about the precedent it might set. We have a lot of things that are controversial on campus and that offend folks, and I can share in my email queue. But again, I want to thank you very much for the dialogue, and just to reiterate the point that I made 3 times now, the fourth, that my speaking wasn't intended at all to influence the outcome of your decision, but just rather to do what I can do to contribute to having an informed discussion about it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chancellor. Yes. Senator Schumer.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on that. Yeah, so we did have some very sensitive, touchy, which way to go in your decision or thought processes resolution. But I think that we debated well, and we came to the proper solution. One thing as far as precedent goes, I think the resolution as far as the display is a pretty good precedent that we can go by one, not denying access, but 2, providing education and resources when there are controversial events like that. That way we will continue to, be a representative government, because there may be students out there who want to see the display, or there are a lot of them that don't, as well as Yik Yak. There may be students who want to use Yik Yak. There may be students who don't. But I think for us as a government, putting boundaries is a wrong thing to do. But I think us as a government offering education and alternatives is the better way to go. So I just want to point that out there. Thank you.
Was that in response to the public forum speaker?
I'm sorry?
Was your comment in response to the speaker?
No, it's just the word precedent was thrown out there. It's a concept, and so precedent, this would be a good precedent to go by, the fact that 1, we're not setting boundaries, and 2, we're offering alternatives in education. Whereas the first resolution, we were setting a boundary.
Okay, I appreciate that. I just, I want to make sure that we focus definitely for public forum on the speakers of public forum, because this is their one chance to speak. So this is our meeting.
I didn't understand.
Essentially, because I'll respond to the speaker, not necessarily.
And that's what I did.
Okay.
He said
I
precedent.
misunderstood.
He said precedent.
It's okay, we'll continue, but thank you. Is there any other, thanks, Senator?
I had a point of parliamentary procedure, and I don't know how to go about this, but I was interested in setting a set time for public forum, because we don't know how long these meetings are going to be. Last week we were here till like 1 o'clock. Today we're here till around 10 o'clock. Once we were here till like 8. So I had some individuals come up to me as a senator, and they had specific questions regarding intramural sports, things of that nature, and they wanted to address the Senate and get the Senate's input on how they should go about pursuing it. I kind of felt that fell under internals Purview, and internal told me, I believe he told me to tell them to come to Senate. They sat there and then they left because I believe because this meeting was taking too long. So I was wondering, is there a way for us to set a set time, and if so, let's do it. That's mine.
Well, I can explain the rationale. I moved public forum towards the end mostly because there have also been many students who have wanted to hear out with the reports and the collaboration, all the items that they might not necessarily have been informed or aware of when they came to Senate, but now found that the opportunity to speak came up when something that alerted them, something that they might be passionate about comes up in Senate, and to give them the opportunity to speak after that's presented. However, yes, you can move to change where the public forum is located on the agenda. I can't move it up. Understand that there's just there are also competing interests as external affairs.
Yeah, so I would suggest that we go back to something that we did last year with having two separate agenda items. One is public forum and one is public comment. So if we have a public forum at the beginning of our meeting after, like, say, I don't know, ex officio reports, before we go into the committees and everything else, that would provide students with the opportunity to address us with any general issues that they might want to address us. And then also, after, if we have it at the end where public forum currently is, if we add a public comment section there instead of the public forum, then they're able to comment on anything that we've said or done since the public forum, specifically in relation to the items that we discussed. So I think that would provide an avenue that would kind of give a blend of both of those things, where if a student wants to address us generally about something that's not on our agenda, they can do so during public forum, and if they want to respond to things that we've talked about, then they can do so in public comment.
No, you bring up a good point. The only reason I had combined it was that students who possibly arrived at a different time and possibly missed public forum still be able to speak possibly towards the end. And I understood that public comment was in direct relation to just things that we had reported on, and they might have something that isn't related to our reports at that time. So I consolidated, but I definitely understand where you're coming from. We can make that revision. Senator Herman saying that our director.
Yeah, so just two questions. One, would we be allowed to set a strict time? Like at 7 o'clock, we will have public forum and have all other agenda items paused until we finish public forum? And the second question, I'll just ask both of them. Is this something that the Senate votes on, or is this something at your discretion?
It's essentially at my discretion. You can appeal, especially if when it comes to like setting a speaker's time, setting a total amount of public forum time. It starts with my discretion. If the Senate does feel otherwise, that certainly a motion can be made. As for setting a specific time, you do have to, each individual meeting, you have to essentially make a motion to essentially table a discussion until further along in the meeting at every time if you want to hear public forum at a specific time. So that would have to be something that would be by meeting. There is not really Robert's Rules of Order to be able to automatically interrupt business on the floor. And Mark, any opinion on that?
Yeah, all I was gonna say, I think that's a good idea, and if you want to adopt that, I mean, we can just include that in our marketing, kind of, let students know that, hey, if you do want to talk, it's going to be earlier on in the meeting, so whether or not it's a set time, come around 6:30, 6:45, and you'll have an opportunity to speak fairly soon. So that should solve that.
Pretty good. Okay. Well, continuing on with public forum. I see no additional members of the gallery that would like to speak unless I'm mistaken. Okay. We'll now move on to section J of our agenda. We have roundtable announcements. I'll begin from my left and circle around to my right. Senator Aliagas.
Pass.
Senator Kalecki.
Pass.
Senator Samuel.
Yes.
Senator Priscilla Perret.
Pass.
Senator Vivian Escamilla.
Pass.
Senator Reed Blake. Senator Herman Sanger.
Yeah, so it's actually been 30 years since the Sikh genocide, which took place October 31st to November 5th, 1984. Countless of individuals were targeted and then killed simply because they were followers of a specific religion and because, they were identifiable by their turbans and by their beards. So I was now going to ask everybody for a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Herman Sanger. Marketing and Promotions Director, Dean Thought. Pass. Vice President, Campus Internal Affairs. Pass. Vice President, External Affairs.
Pass.
Okay. Parliamentarian, Senate Secretary. Good luck on midterms.
Oh, my birthday's next Monday.
Vice President of Finance.
Pass.
President Pro Tem Board.
Pass.
Elections Director. Outreach Director.
So, just a few announcements of upcoming events from Chicano student programs that are not co-sponsored by Raza Assembly. This Thursday, we have an exciting event taking place at the barn from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., which is tomorrow. It's called Poesía Peligrosa. I briefly mentioned it last week. In Spanish, it translates to dangerous poetry. It's similar to a spoken word and also kind of like a way of protest. Each quarter we have a theme. This theme would be Day of the Dead or Dia de los Muertos. So I invite you all to attend, and it is also open mic, so anyone is open to participating in the event. Second, we also have a huge event that we're hoping to get many participants for. It's our Chicano Latino Alumni Dinner. It would be the first of its kind. We are working in collaboration with the alumni department. What we did with Chicano student programs is we established a Chicano Latino alumni networking system, and we'll be having the first of many events, which will be a dinner that will be on November 15th from 6:30 to 9 p.m. in Hub 302. The deadline to register for this event will be this Friday, November 7th. And if you would like discounted tickets, you do not have to register online. If you want discounted tickets, you can just easily go into Chicano Student Programs. The discounted tickets are $20, and the actual ticket price is higher. So if you wanted more information about that, you can come see me and I'll get you that information, or you can always step into Chicano Student Programs. Lastly, I just wanted to thank every individual in the gallery that's still here and all the individuals that came out. We had a very quick response to the resolution. I'm gonna respond or announce it publicly if that's okay. Through Twitter, there was already a tweet that was showing appreciation to the fact that it was even that there was even any type of conversation happening about the demonstration that's going to take place. So I'm going to attempt to reword it and so that the individuals is anonymous. So based on their tweet, they stated, I was able to share my coming out story. I was able to share how I was a rape survivor. Unknowingly and very happy, I'm an empowered individual. I don't hide under the shadows of the R word, rape, or domestic violence. I'm not just a survivor, but I'm also a thriver. I'm not sure if I made sense, but I want to make it clear that I thank everyone and anyone who has helped. Thank you for all the support, and thank you for anyone who stands in solidarity. There may be roadblocks that prevent any type of action, but the simple consideration and communication is an initiative to bring awareness of what goes on campus. I appreciate all that listen and take into consideration the students at UC Riverside. It is ears, eyes, and hearts like yours that make me feel at ease with my body and the need and urge to cope and heal.
Thank you very much. Senator Kimbrough.
Yeah, it's November, it's Transfer Awareness and Recognition Month. With that, Friday I'll be going to RCC and CSUSB to meet with their board, their presidents, to get them on board with what we're doing here. And hopefully we can have a couple of students from RCC here on the third week to celebrate us during our homecoming events. There's a few things that I've requested. I'm hoping that the substance of what I've requested can be provided, not necessarily in its entirety, but the substance. I've asked that athletics allow us to honor a few students at halftime, to a few transfer students. I've also I'm asking athletics to allow us to read the resolution that we passed honoring transfer students and commuter students. So that's that, and again, I'll be going out on Friday morning to CSUSB as well as RCC to meet with their equivalent of their president. So if there's anyone that would like to go with me at 9 o'clock. If there's anyone that'd like to go with me, please let me know. I would appreciate the assistance as well as the company, laughs, hugs, and fun. So thank you.
Senator Richard, pass. Senator Carlson, pass. Senator Delaney,
Pass.
Senator Summer Shaver.
Yeah, thanks everyone, and thanks to the people who were here that spoke. I just wanted to also say that the UC task force on sexual assault and sexual violence, one of the things that they want to implement on UC campuses is to have training for especially for student leaders on our campuses in regards, and I think that's really important, especially for us, especially if we're going to address these issues and publicly address these issues, students can see that and may or may not be releasing their stories to us, and so we need to be able to have training on how to respond to that, what resources we can give them, and what appropriate language is to be used. And so I hope that we can make a possible mandatory meeting before our next Senate meeting, or if there is already a mandatory meeting, one before that, to have a training if we can get someone out there, and if not, as soon as we can get someone to kind of give us an appropriate training on how to respond. Even though we already had a sexual assault and sexual violence training, it wasn't training on how we could respond, and I feel like that is really important moving forward.
Great, thank you. And lastly, Senator Jason Ramirez.
Good luck everyone on exams and any future endeavors you all have, and with that, I'm done.
Great, thank you. Okay, following our last item on the agenda, we have the motion to adjourn. Chairman Smile upon motion to adjourn. Senator Alias.
I move to adjourn.
Do I have a second? Seconded by President Pro Tem Jorge Mazo. All those in favor? All those opposed? And abstain, okay? At 9:55, this meeting adjourns.